Welcome to Trivial Debates.
Coming to you live from my apartment. This is the first episode of Trivial Debates. The show is following a debate format, so there are going to be multiple rounds. There are movies, television, music, sports, history, and a wild card round, which can be anything. The idea of the show is that we have one guest or one host for the week. It can be any of us. And we come up with a number of questions, one for each category. And we ask our panelists, and there are at any given time 3 panelists. We're also looking to add a 5th person who would be a fact checker on the side. So if there are any bullshit that come up in the arguments, we can call for somebody to look it up.
There's some sort of reverse bullshit. Can I protest that person too and be like, "Damn it, I know what I'm talking about."
We're just gonna get into intense fact checking arguments then.
This shit's going wild, like encyclopedia wild.
Fist fights with the fact checker.
Yeah. The idea is that each of us who are not the judge pick their topic. They argue their case in point. They argue why the other one isn't as good. And then
to be clear, the person, not the argument, right?
Yeah, try not to make it personal against each other. You're encouraged to actually call bullshit on it. You don't have to all come together and sing Kumbaya. This is kind of a hard-line show. Each round, the judge will need to be as objective as possible, come back and actually give credence to the points that were argued by the different debaters. And if they make the most good points, if they're objective, they should award the round to that person. So we play the 6 categories, and then we go into a speed round, which if there's 2 people that are close enough, they can go into the speed round. You win enough points in that round, you win the whole game.
I hope there's background tension music.
Let's get this shit going.
Yeah, let's get this shit going. Let's introduce ourselves. So we've introduced myself, Dave Mader. We got Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeff.
And then we got...
I'm Gerry McRae.
From Niagara Falls.
Unfortunate, yes.
From the Falls.
Yeah.
And I'm Jody Simpson from Burlington.
And how do we all know each other? Well, we mentioned you and I are brothers. Jeff and Gerry went to university together.
It's true.
That's correct.
They took history together, so the history category is kind of for them. And we got Jody Simpson.
We met through the Mirror Gazing Society, I believe it was.
Yeah. How awesome are we, society?
It's you know what? There's only one guy that looks better than Dave in the mirror, and that's me.
Is that where you guys just stare at each other's eyes?
You know what? There was a moment there.
Yeah.
I think there was some share.
There was some sexual tension. I felt some sexual tension when you walked in the door. Dave gave you this look, and I thought...
You know what? He gave me that kind of...
I've stumbled on something here.
Grab, you know what I mean? With the
I saw it
there, and it was
I saw it.
It was awkward, but it also felt so...
You made it look like a chest bump, but it was more...
It was more to me anyway. That's really what it comes down to.
Well, I'm glad the mutual stroking is it's natural. And so we're going to move right into the first round. And if you want to skip ahead, we're going to put time indexes into the description, and you'll be able to jump around to the different fights if you're more interested in those. Just to give credit where credit's due, we are sort of following a format that was invented by the Screen Junkies YouTube channel. They have the show Movie Fights, but they exclusively talk about movies. It's a good show. We really like it. We like watching it. And they're like, hey, they made a pretty good model. Why not just take the architecture of that, but mix it up enough and make it more than just about movies?
Our own flavor.
Let's rip it off.
There's no things to talk about in this world.
That's what we said in private. Oh, okay. Cover the mics.
I mean, wow, that was a good idea, and we want to honor them.
Exactly. Now let's get into it. Round 1, movies. So the first question of the evening is, what is the best movie set in Canada?
That one's easy.
Who's going to take point on this one?
So we're going to start with Jeff.
Okay.
Jeff, your answer to this question was what?
I chose a movie from, I think it's 2001. I chose a movie called The Score. Now, The Score stars Edward Norton, Marlon Brando, Robert De Niro. You got some of the best actors of really the start of really great movies, and we've got 2 guys who won Academy Awards for playing the same character, Don Corleone, and you got Ed Norton, you got Angela Bassett sort of in the movie, doesn't really matter, and the movie is just the best pure movie, I think, that is set in Canada. A lot of movies set in Canada are kind of silly movies, comedies, which in their own right are great movies, but I think this is the best pure film set in Canada, and it's a great heist movie. It's got a nice slow burn to it. It gets you into it quick, but also
that review is intense.
But also just with a nice cadence. You know, like you really get to enjoy what's going on with the heist, how long it takes to, you know, really plan something like that, and really what's great about a heist movie. And it has a great payoff. It's got a great twist ending, and it's just really well written and directed with great actors. I just think overall the story is what shines in this movie.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Jeff. Now we're gonna go to Gerry, and your answer to this question was what?
I chose Trailer Park Boys. Don't legalize it. Now, I chose this movie. I know, yes, it's a silly comedy movie.
Very
However,
specifically, the one of the Trailer Park Boys that you picked. It was Don't Legalize It.
Yeah, it was the most recent one, right?
Yes, that is the
that's
most
what
recent
he
one.
said.
That's what I said.
Why? Okay, I'll let you make your case, and then I'll ask you questions.
Not only is the movie filmed and set in Canada, there's Canadian actors in it, Canadian crew. It's all Canadian. Not only the movie, the actual production of it. Also, I feel like the Trailer Park Boys have made themselves a very recognizable name in Canada and abroad. Perhaps one of the most recognizable products of Canadian television or movies worldwide. Also, I feel like they were a pioneer of the current mockumentary style, which shows in this movie. And it's very funny. It was very well done. They visit the capital of Canada and take place in a hilarious, albeit very fake, parliamentary debate about whether or not they should legalize marijuana. And they bring in politics. That is an actual issue in this country that we struggle with, and it is known that we are a little more lax on our drug laws here. That's one of the stereotypes about our country.
Okay. Now, Jody, you picked. Do you remember what you picked?
Strange Brew.
Strange Brew. Now tell us more about that.
Well, in my opinion, quintessential Canadiana movie. You got two boys who obviously very popular with the crowd, and you know I already hear the fuck's coming and all that. But anyway, you have a show that is derived from characters from SCTV, a show that was absolutely impossible for any American to even know what it was at one point. It eventually grew
To not know what it was, or to know what it was?
to know what it was. Right?
Yeah, but eventually it caught on, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and by the time the movie was out, it was already caught on a bit. But you know, it's providing that legacy, kind of like how the Trailer Park Boys have done it. The best thing about it is it doesn't take itself serious by any means, any stretch of the imagination. It wasn't shot very well. It's not. I wouldn't say it's to the artsy, you know, as for instance you said with the score. It's not an artsy movie. Like, that's not what it is. It's, you know, it's 90 minutes of goofy. Like, that it was what the early 80s comedy movies were all about. You know, you look at all those goofy, like, Revenge of the Nerds, all that stuff, right? Fabulous movies, but they were movies for entertainment. They weren't movies for anything to show you anything other than entertainment. And to me, that's kind of, it kind of grabs the simplicity of what Canada is. We're a very non-complex country. It's, you know, we try not to be. It's all about, you know, scoring some beers and having a good time, you know. And we're not for everybody, but, you know, it's obviously that's kind of the way I look at it, even though, yes, it's not anywhere to any sort of artistic level or merit in that opinion, but just the overall content, and you know what, almost everybody can enjoy it. It's a good movie that people can sit down. Yeah, it's certainly not serious by any means, but you know, it's great.
Okay, now you've all told me why you like your movie, but tell me why it's the best Canadian or the best film set in Canada. Why is it, because it's set in Canada, does it make it a good movie? We'll go to Gerry first.
It's the best movie set in Canada because it is purely Canadian. Everything about it is Canadian, and they visit the capital, like I said in my initial argument, and they showcase a lot of like the wilderness and the small sort of backwoods parts of Canada. It's not set in like a major city. You know, every country has these major cities that everyone knows about. It's set in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Who knows about Dartmouth, Nova Scotia? Nobody.
I do, because I'm from Halifax originally.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People from Ontario.
That's what makes it the best. Anybody can set a movie in Canada in Toronto or Vancouver or Montreal.
But it's unique
But
in
it's
where they
unique
set it.
because it's set in a small area of Canada that is otherwise not paid attention to.
Good. That was a pretty good point you made there. Got to tell you, because it's not the typical setting, right?
No,
Okay,
it's not your
Jeff, what do you say?
Whatever.
I say, I'm just going off the question you asked, which is, what is the best movie set in Canada? And the best movie overall is The Score, I think. I mean, it's not saying much as far as the fact that there isn't a lot of movies like The Score set in Canada. There's a lot of...
Right.
Like
but
I said,
how much does it matter that movie's set in Canada? Why can't it be set in, like, Montreal? No, sorry, it is set in Montreal.
Yeah.
Why can't it be set in, like, Chicago or LA or New York or Vancouver?
Mm-hmm.
What about Montreal is specifically special about that movie?
I would say just the way that the movie is shot. There's certain scenes in the movie where they give you the landscape of Montreal. They don't necessarily go into the fact that it's French. They don't really need to. That's not what the movie is about. So they talk a lot about in that movie, just like the scenery of Montreal is the most important thing. Just like in any movie where you have a movie that like a heist movie and they just set it in like L.A. and so L.A. all of a sudden
It's
becomes a
important to,
character
like,
in the movie.
the look of the film, because the look of the film is a lot of shots of, like, old Montreal.
Yes.
Right? So, but if they really want to show the fuck out of some city, like look at Paris,
Or San Francisco, they do.
or San Francisco, they love to show it. Like, they can show, Montreal's a great city, right?
Yep.
So you can show it from different angles, but that could be anything. It's almost like the backdrop. Okay, Jody, on to yours. Strange Brew. It's kind of it is a goofy, silly, weird movie.
Absolutely.
However, it has like this cult following. It's interesting that you and Gerry both picked movies that are based off TV shows,
That's a good point. Yeah,
right? Jeff actually picked an original movie, but most of the characters in that movie are actually American. Right? Robert De Niro's American.
Well, the actors.
The actor and the
portraying
character.
the characters.
Even Robert De Niro's character, he's from the States, but he lives in Montreal now.
Oh, there you go.
He's like, I'm cool, I'm hip, I'm in my 50s, 60s. I want to show off like I own a jazz club in Montreal. And I'm a jewel thief.
Well, I'm gonna be
Definitely.
100% transparent. I have not seen that movie, so I don't know why.
It's
I
a good
haven't.
flick.
And
Like,
you
I
know
know
what? I've seen it. I've flipped by and seen it a couple times.
Yep.
Just never stopped to watch it. So I'm definitely gonna do that the next
Okay.
next go around for sure.
I feel like I'm down.
Either way.
I'm down to Trailer Park Boys and Strange Brew. So I'm trying to figure out which of these are the better ones. So tell me why Strange Brew shouldn't get it. Why? What's the holes in that movie? Gerry, you want this point? You got to earn it.
All right, well,
It's all about
Strange Brew, I feel, is more about. It doesn't really factor into the point of being like, it's set in Canada. It is about Canadians, and you can tell there's a lot of Canadiana, like you said.
Absolutely.
But it very rarely shows the setting. They're always indoors or at a beer store or at the beer factory.
Yep.
But the actual country of Canada itself doesn't factor in very much to the movie outside of how we act as a society. Whereas I feel like the Trailer Park Boys, they talk about Canada a lot. They're proud to be Canadians. Canada factors into the storyline a lot and visually.
All right, Jody, why doesn't Trailer Park Boys deserve the best movie set in Canada?
It's a hard one for me because I really enjoy the Trailer Park Boys, but the Trailer Park Boys, as a whole of what they are, was supposed to be essentially a reality show that ended up turning into a comedy, right? Like, that's really what it is,
It's
right?
a mockumentary.
It's a
It's a
skit.
mockumentary, right?
It's like based off an SNL type of a skit.
Absolutely. SCTV, originates these characters that are just a 3-minute sketch. We've taken something that was so minute and small and just expanded it and expanded the universe. The best thing about the movie is the fact that, yes, as you said, you can't really, you can see backdrops of famous cities in the movie, but it's not. There's no focus there at all, and it kind of draws to what Jeff said, whereas it's not the character. We know it's Canada. We don't need to sit here and show the CN Tower 20 times. Like, we know it's Canada because we know the characters are the Canadian guys, right?
Are you talking about Trailer Park Boys or Strange Brew?
No, Strange Brew. So with this, when you look at Trailer Park Boys, yes, being said, but I think that also gives you a false sense of what's going on for people who are not very cultured in that show on their first or second attempt may not actually get the fact that this is a comedy show. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's going to give that false sense of what Canada is, whereas we know that Strange Brew essentially is that.
Jeff, any thoughts?
Just for Gerry,
Between these two?
I would say, like, okay, in fairness, I have not seen Don't Legalize It, but I would say...
Is it even the best Trailer Park
That's
movie?
what my question would be to even Gerry. Is that the best Trailer Park Boys movie?
Countdown to Labor Day was my favorite.
Right.
I liked the Big Dirty.
That's the first
That's the
That's
worst
the first
one.
I liked it.
That one I didn't
That's
like
the
at all.
worst one.
You know what was
You
funny?
know the problem with Trailer Park Boys is they keep rebooting themselves, but it's the same characters over and over again, but they're a little different.
They're fun characters, though.
They're fun. It's not
They are
supposed to be
fun
serious
characters, and
in
I will
any
give you
way.
that.
Like
There's
the
no
whole-
canon to it.
They don't evolve, and that's the point.
They're kind of like the
Some
Simpsons, but
things
they're real people.
never change.
Exactly. Nothing changes.
They don't
Perfect
change.
point.
That's the whole point of it, right? Like
The
they're
point is
going
they are
to
what
be.
they are. They're going to be in jail by the
They're
end
going
of
to
the,
be in jail
the season.
at the end of every season. That's just the way
Like,
it
It's
goes.
true.
like Jay and Silent Bob, just like Cheech and Chong,
And it helps break away from that little Canadian stereotype that we're all nice too.
like Bob and Doug.
they're in
McKenzie.
jail
This is true.
every year.
And Bob and Doug McKenzie are your guys who you're pretty
Right.
sure they wouldn't say shit if they had the mouth full.
Very
Yeah.
different. You got the nice Canadian and the asshole Canadian.
But which one do we want to portray onto the world?
Good point.
I believe we've portrayed being nice for a very long time.
Time to mix it
The
up.
point of sheer comedy.
Okay, this
Either
is
way, it could go both ways.
this is tough to pick, but okay. Online, Trailer Park Boys has a 57% critic rating on a review aggregator, but on Rotten Tomatoes, it holds a 78% fan approval. But
That's pretty good.
Strange Brew has a 79% rating from Rotten Tomatoes and a 70% approval with the critics. I think I'm going to have to get.
That's a pretty.
I have to make a
I
call.
feel like if we looked at not only revenue
Yeah.
but sheer popularity of the franchise, Trailer Park Boys would be far ahead.
Trailer. Good point.
But it's about a movie that's set in Canada. It has nothing to do with how much we've sold. You know what I mean? And
But then how do the Rotten Tomatoes reviews factor in?
Rotten Tomatoes review go by the reviews of the people that liked or didn't
But
like
it's
the movie.
but it's about the
Not
setting
about
of the movie,
merchandise.
not,
Not
how
about
good the
whether
movie
I
is.
like the thermos that came with the fucking lunchbox. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with I like the characters. I enjoyed the show.
But if people didn't like the movie, they wouldn't buy a ticket to go see the movie. So it must factor.
True.
If we're talking about likability as a factor in this decision, then revenue does come into play.
Within reason, I'll give them that.
I don't know. This is a tough one, but I think I'm gonna have to give it to Strange Brew. It's just too much of a cult classic. It's got, it's just so iconic. Trailer Park Boys as well, but it's even more like, they don't even really talk about being Canadian that much on that show. It's kind of like that's an afterthought. They just kind of portray it as if it's anywhere. But they have Canadian product on there, but it's not. They don't go out of their way to be super Canadian, so I got to give it to Strange Brew that very much is Canada
Down to the tooth.
and setting with the quintessential Canadian tradition, as you said. So, giving this to Jody, round one
Thank you.
is
It'll
over.
be the only one I win, I'm sure. But
Hey, it's a good one.
Hey,
That's a
Yeah.
good one to get. It's only 1 point, so there's 5 to go plus a speed round. So now, okay, what was the best sitcom of the 1990s? Now, we're going to start with Gerry on this one.
I gotta go with Seinfeld.
Why?
Seinfeld is a great show. It lasted for a long time, but not so long that it got terrible like some other shows. Off the top of my head, The Simpsons, which hasn't been good in about 15 years. Okay, so they knew when to take the exit.
oh, there's some
right? They
people that
weren't
would disagree with that.
they weren't ridiculous and overstay their welcome. So that's a point for Seinfeld in my
Family Guy.
opinion.
They ended in 9.
Right? Okay. So also just the fact that Seinfeld is so insanely relatable. Every person on the planet has watched an episode of Seinfeld and thought to themselves, holy shit, I have lived that situation. That is the beauty of that show. It reaches so many different people, so many different audiences, while still being funny to everybody.
Right, my dad loves that show. I love that show. Everyone who watches that likes it.
It transcends generations. It doesn't
But
matter.
realistically, that could be said about any show in the world. If you're watching it, you probably like it.
Any popular show.
I like Judge Judy. I'm not afraid to say that, but you
I'm
know
saying
what?
it's
still
it's
entertaining.
relatable. If you
is.
hate Seinfeld, you still can relate to it. You
Okay.
can think it's the worst show ever, but they still have situations in a situational comedy that you have lived.
Okay.
And that's what makes it the best
But
sitcom of the 1990s.
All right, Jody goes next.
You know what? This was a tough one for me.
Do you remember what you picked?
Absolutely, I remember what I picked.
Okay.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Okay, and
Interesting pick.
it's an interesting pick, and quite honestly, it wasn't my first pick because I read the question wrong.
No, your original choice was Star Trek: The Next Generation.
And I stand by that. Riker is fucking hilarious.
You know what? That is
all right?
funny.
I had to take him aside. It was good.
He did have to take me aside though. He's like, "Bad Jody, don't do that again."
I was like, "Are you really picking,
Learn to read."
Like, you're gonna lose the round
And then I
automatically."
started crying, and I was like, "Dang,
You can't
I
have
never learned how to read."
Star Trek. You can have. You're like. The thing was your.
All right, we're
Are you-
getting off topic here.
Fresh Prince.
Fresh Prince of
Why is
Bel-Air.
it so? Why is it the best of the '90s?
You cannot find somebody, in my opinion anyway, and certainly this is my opinion and my opinion alone, that you can't plop in front of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and they don't enjoy it. Even if we didn't like all the stuff that had to do with that show, you still liked watching it. It was a guilty pleasure for a lot of people, and other people really enjoyed it. For me, it was more of a guilty pleasure. But it was one of those things that it was borderline, you didn't want to tell your friends you watched it, but it was also, you were like, fuck yeah.
Well, how old were you when that was on?
Oh, fuck, I don't know.
Like you were in your 20s or high school?
Early, late teens, early 20s probably. So, yeah, you know.
So
there
that
might
why you
have been
didn't
a
want
bit
to
of an
tell
age
your
thing.
friends?
Maybe that's part of it, but, you know, it's...
Was it more of a kids show?
That's the problem is you don't really know, because if you look from one season to another with that show, you have a season where it's like it's really kind of geared towards your what they would call tweens nowadays, and then you have other episodes where it's like, holy shit, like that was fucking deep, you know what I mean? It's like I thought this was a fucking comedy. Somebody screwed up the remote here.
There were some deep moments on that show. Uncle Phil.
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting off track. So are you done your opening statement yet?
You know what? I don't think I need to explain it much more than that. It showed the culture of the 90s to a T. It was everything that was being followed for the 90s. Everything that was big, with the exception of maybe grunge rock, was, or whatever you wanted to call it back then, garage or whatever. I'm old. But anyway. It showed a lot of that stuff, but it also allowed, for instance, you know, we had a couple shows previous to that that were, you know, in a way racially motivated. So, like, for instance, you know, you had Cosby Show, which was really popular in the 80s, right? And it kind of started dying off around that point in time, and then all of a sudden Fresh Prince is there to kind of liven it up and bring it back.
What about
again.
Family Matters?
Family Matters... Family Matters was fucking annoying, okay? And that's just how it was. You know what? I'm sure a lot of people will fucking sit there and pitchfork me, and, you know, this isn't anything to do with my answer, but it's... Family Matters was fucking annoying to watch. It was irritating.
I'm with
and
you.
you can't tell me that Urkel
So were
wasn't
the
fucking
first
irritating.
3 seasons of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They're terrible. Absolutely awful.
I wouldn't say they're
They're
absolutely
they're
awful,
not
but they
even
certainly
worth-
aren't stellar.
The first
That's-
season-
When Netflix put Fresh Prince, I was all excited. I was like, yeah, I like this show. And then they were like, only seasons 1 to 3, and I was like, I watched a couple, and I was like, never again. They did not age well. They're so
it's definitely not a
bad.
show that's aged well.
Okay.
That had nothing to do with this question.
But the first 3 seasons of Seinfeld, there's only a handful of good episodes, especially the first
I
season.
disagree.
Well, I don't know. Like, if you
I
were to
haven't
rate
even
all the
gotten
Seinfeld
Seinfeld
episodes, if you were to rate all the Seinfeld episodes, you would only put a couple from each of the first 3 seasons in your like top 50. You know.
Okay, let's get off track here. So let's get.
we don't even know what you picked yet.
Let's get to Jeff's pick.
Okay, my pick is The Simpsons because it is the most revolutionary sitcom of all time, by far. With just like 10 voice actors, they were able to create hundreds of characters, go to, wherever they wanted to in references. They could make it relatable to both adults and kids, which both of your other shows did, but not to the same level that The Simpsons was able to do. Another point for The Simpsons is, when you think back to The Simpsons, one of the best episodes, even now in writing, it's in the 90s, and by far it is the most pure 90s sitcom for just changing the game. You know, Seinfeld and both Fresh Prince were, you know, we'd seen those sitcoms before. We'd seen them with the Cosby Show. Simpsons was brand new. It was on its own level of good, and it really changed the way, you know, computers dealt with TV shows and animation and all that kind of stuff. Really started with The Simpsons, and you know, we have tons of cartoons today that aren't quite as cartoony as they were in the 60s and the 70s and then the 80s. They followed more of that sitcom format, and you know, so many shows are just built from The Simpsons.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna go to Gerry. Tell me why Simpsons and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air don't deserve it.
Okay. As far as The Simpsons goes, I would personally argue, not even a sitcom. What do you think of when you think of sitcoms? You don't think of cartoons. Simpsons is a cartoon satire, not a sitcom. Situational comedy. You have a situation, and comedy arises around it.
But the Simpsons are in situations, aren't they?
They are, but
Every episode.
I don't think of cartoons when I think of sitcoms, personally. I think of your 90s style shows with your laugh tracks, your Friends, your Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, your Seinfelds.
But in a way, that's what Simpsons created. They created that acceptable adult cartoon genre.
That's
But
right.
that doesn't make it a sitcom.
Right.
Yes, it
Yes,
does.
they
Of course
made
it
their
does.
own
It depends on how you
genre, but that
define
doesn't
sitcom.
make it a
But
sitcom.
sitcom is a category. It's not
Right?
it's not a live action situation.
You
But
think-
that's just, you know, also, I would say, on top of that The Simpsons fell off hard. They overstayed their welcome. It's not good anymore. And I know this was the 90s, but if you're going to continue past the 90s, you should still be good. And if your series falls off and it's terrible, then the last thing I remember about The Simpsons is, oh yeah, but that last 10 years was shit.
But obviously, it
Who
didn't
cares?
matter to millions of people who still watch The Simpsons and still like it. So obviously, you're wrong. Your opinion
you think
is
of a-
just
a
your
sitcom-
opinion.
Because there's still children in the world that will watch
That's exactly
anything.
right. Whereas Seinfeld and both Fresh Prince was better at it than Seinfeld. Seinfeld was for adults completely, whereas Fresh Prince and Simpsons was relatable to a kid growing up. Whereas Seinfeld is more what you think about when you're in your 20s.
But I loved Seinfeld when I was a kid. I thought it was hilarious. I watched it all through my childhood. It was on. I was young. I enjoyed it. So, you know.
Okay.
Anyway, but
Okay, and Fresh Prince?
Fresh Prince.
He hasn't even got to Fresh Prince yet.
Like I stated earlier, I feel like the first few seasons are not so good. And my other knock that I'm going to go with Fresh Prince is it's insanely stereotypical. It doesn't portray a real idea of what society was like. Look at any white person that comes on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and they're the most ridiculous, uptight loser that doesn't understand what's going on with the world except for money. And
Is
so
there
it doesn't portray...
commentary on white people, you think?
Oh, come on. Look at that show. Every single, come on. It's brutal. It's so brutal. Because if I made a sitcom that portrayed black people in a stereotypical way like that, I might get in a little trouble, right? So it's very
You think it's double
stereotypical.
standard?
So remember,
If there is even something going on.
because
which I'm not
Bill
sure.
Cosby's character was a doctor, it was revolutionary. No, it had nothing to do with that, right? It was about introducing families that weren't there. Like, you didn't see black family comedies. Like, it just didn't happen.
About
Right?
Sanford and Son.
Is Fresh Prince of Bel-Air...
Not many.
No, is it...
Sanford and Son. Yeah, Sanford and Son.
Hold on,
There you go.
because I can't remember names of TV shows that I didn't watch, but I know of their existence. The one with Wheezy, The Jeffersons, and what's it called? There's another one. Hold on, I'll remember.
But every
Go on.
single one of those things that you've already said were not a 90s based show. They were
But I'm
all
just saying,
shows previous to that. The 90s genre didn't have anything. It was like Cosby Show kind of wrapped it up. You had the whatever that
Cheers.
spin-off was. Cheers. Well, Cheers was fantastic. But but if you look at Cheers, it's the exact reversal of what you said about the whole racial stereotype. All the white people are your standard people,
right.
but the black guy is the stereotypical black guy on that show.
That's exactly
And
right.
you know what? And I'm not saying it was a racist show because it wasn't, but it was, but it was like that. You had, every black guy that was on Cheers, it was the exact same thing. It was the same black guy all the time. It's like, why does black even have a factor in this? You know what I mean?
My
should
main
be just
point is that
different.
it's just a
The
very
Fresh Prince
stereotypical.
isn't a show about just a black family. But
No, it's not. It has nothing to do with it, really, when you think about it. They started using it a little bit, absolutely, and I think there was part. And to your point, yes, it was stereotypical in a lot of ways. But so was every other show in the 90s. Like, it's,
Every show still today
Seinfeld made a living by doing stereotypical
stereotypes.
characters. Like, that's what it was.
Stereotypes are funny. I will say that, but I just
Well, there isn't a sitcom that doesn't have
Uncle
that.
Phil is a black lawyer who lives in Bel-Air and is very successful. Later becomes a judge.
Yep.
There's nothing stereotypical about that. That's
No.
quite atypical in a way.
that's not
Especially
the
at
point
that
I was
time.
making.
It's true. Like, especially like a Bel-Air, like it's kind of showing you the world that the '90s was.
Think about
In the 90s, you could be a black family that could be ultra successful living in a white dominant society.
That's exactly right.
Well, think like 30 years earlier to the 60s. How different was the world, right? And that would have been the time that Uncle Phil.
But
grew up
TV is
in.
the gateway to that world for a lot of people. A lot of people will never experience any of that. Like,
Well,
I've never set foot in
all right,
Bel-Air.
we're getting
I
off
don't
topic
know.
again.
Anyway, yeah.
Well,
We're going to get off topic.
I just
along.
feel like I think that Fresh Prince of Bel-Air shouldn't just get labeled as a black comedy. It's just
it's not.
It's a 90s comedy to me.
Okay, one thing though that Fresh Prince and The Simpsons both do well, I think Jody kind of mentioned, is sometimes they would take you to a real level. They would actually like make you think about something that was not just funny, which is what great sitcoms do. They can balance back and forth, whereas Seinfeld it just lays on the comedy the entire time. So
Which is
totally
it's a
fine.
sitcom.
It's totally fine, but
Does that just mean it's the funniest show?
right, it's high in one category, but completely neglects the other, which is totally fine for what Seinfeld is. But if you're going to rate the best '90s sitcom, especially for what the '90s was, the grunge era, and you had a lot of teen angst, I think at that
When
time.
you define the 90s, what does it really mean? And which one of these captures the culture the most?
Well, I can tell you right now, Seinfeld doesn't capture anything.
But I don't-
You can pop that into any decade, and you have the exact same show.
And I just don't think any of that factors into what makes a good sitcom. To me, best sitcom means, was it entertaining? Did people watch it and like it? Did it move past the 90s and still remain popular?
This is like, what's
Do
the
people
best?
still watch it today? That's what makes a good sitcom, not how well did it relate to society or what's the window to the real world like. No, did you fucking watch it? Did you like it? That's it.
well,
true.
a lot of people liked Seinfeld and Simpsons probably more than they liked Fresh Prince.
Absolutely.
Like, which one was the most popular? If that's how we're defining best,
If we're defining best by popular, I think it's still The Simpsons, would it not be?
it's got to probably be Simpsons or Seinfeld.
It
Depending
definitely wouldn't be Fresh Prince. Because out of the three of them, I'll tell you right now, I'm sure Fresh Prince got the least market share out of all three.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like, bar none. The
Yeah.
thing that...
it's two juggernauts you're going against here.
The only thing, and I will say, and I don't know if I'm out of context again, but whatever, get a gavel, fuck off. But anyway, the whole thing to me is like when you look at The Simpsons is a show that was revolutionary at the time. Did it represent the 90s? Yes and no. Merchandise wise, absolutely. Fucking everybody had a Bart Simpson, fucking Alberto or whatever the fuck it was. But did it represent what the 90s was to me? And if that's what the question, and that's how we interpret the question is it, what was the best sitcom that happened to be in the 90s, or was it the best sitcom that was about the 90s?
Sure.
And it depends on how we define that question, and of course the judge is going to be the one.
I'm going to be the one who decides how we define the question.
How do we define the question? We weren't given that.
I would also say that we need this fact checker here to look up the dictionary definition of the fucking word sitcom.
Go.
I would still
It's
argue that The
situation comedy.
Simpsons
Yeah,
is not a
situational
sitcom.
comedy.
If we go with
It's a
sitcom
situation
in the
that happens,
traditional
it's a comedy.
sense, Jeff's can't go. Simpsons can't win, right?
Why?
So-
Why in a traditional?
Because it's not like a studio audience. It's animated. It's
So that's all based on what
sitcoms-
Gerry said people think about sitcoms.
Well, you
They have to
especially-
have a laugh track. They have to have.
So
which
if when
The
you think-
Simpsons changed.
I don't
okay,
consider
okay.
bowling a sport, but it's still part of the fucking category. Like it
falls in the sitcom category.
The sitcom is the category.
How
It's a
can
situation
you call
comedy.
it the-
Simpson is a situation comedy.
Is
How
The
can you
Office-
call it the best situation comedy of the 90s?
I didn't.
No, but this is my argument. Like
Fair enough.
if he's going to get the point, I would argue that when most people think of sitcoms,
Yep.
They don't think of Simpsons.
But that doesn't
See,
mean
that
it's
was
not
think of it as a
sitcom.
great
And I'll tell you right
television
now,
show,
when I thought of
but
sitcom, the
did-
first thing I did think of was The Simpsons.
See, and I'll tell you right now, I talked to like 5
And I will say
your
that.
last name is Simpson.
Well, I might have a bit of a bias because I was called Bart for 3 fucking years. in
I
grade
talked to
school,
like
but-
5 people about this question, and none of them mentioned The Simpsons. Not one.
Okay.
And then the only time it was mentioned was, I don't think you
Let's
would be
just look
allowed
at-
to use The Simpsons
for a-
because it's not a sitcom.
Just to throw out a fact, in 2013, TV Guide ranked both of these shows, The Simpsons and Seinfeld, for the best shows of all time. Now,
biased bastard.
The Simpsons,
Seinfeld will be higher,
The Simpsons got greatest cartoon of all time, but it only got 10th greatest TV show overall of all time. Now, this is all time, including the 90s and
Yeah.
not. The Seinfeld in 2013 was ranked as the greatest TV show of all time.
Okay.
That's gotta
That's a
be
ranking,
point
though.
for Gerry. I don't
That's
know.
a ranking, though, and I think
TV Guide, it's pretty notable.
But is TV Guide using the same answer to that question that we are?
Greatest and best, I think, means the same thing.
So,
But greatest and
So
best
I
for
gotta
what?
call it. I
I
gotta
believe
call
we've
it.
all jockeyed to our positions.
The Simpsons is just not. It's not confined to the '90s yet. It had best episodes there, but it spanned like 4 decades now, I think. And in terms of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, very big. But which one has endured on syndication all these years? Definitely Seinfeld.
Definitely Seinfeld.
And yeah, I got to give it to Gerry. Congratulations, Gerry.
I wanted Seinfeld, and you chose it.
I actually picked something.
And he had it already, so yeah, you can have
You
it.
beat me to the punch on that.
There
one.
we go.
I figured you go with Simpsons just because your last name.
Okay.
That actually had nothing to do with it.
All right, on to music, round 3. Okay, who haven't we started? We haven't started with you yet, right?
Yes.
Okay, it's round 3, music. The question is, what is the greatest musical duo of all time?
Duo, absolutely.
Is in two
It's
people playing together,
Yep.
or songwriting together.
And I
perhaps.
guarantee you, I didn't come up with anything as classy as the rest of you.
Jody's answer was,
Daft Punk.
Nice choice. Good
Daft
choice.
Punk.
tell us why Daft Punk.
Daft Punk has managed to take sounds that do not make sense and make them make sense. It is what life needs to be. And when I listen to music to unwind. I listen to music to enjoy myself or to get myself into a mindset. And the way I can get into a mindset is how they perceive sound and make it into a story. When you listen to some of their music is very dance hall repetitive, for lack of a better word, top 40 dancey stuff, right? But if you listen to some of the deeper tracks on a lot of their albums, it's telling the story with music, and that's to me what music is. And the thing I really like, even if you look at something as simple as the heavily commercialized Tron soundtrack, the soundtrack for the reboot of the Tron movie, which wasn't
Tron Legacy.
Legacy, that's it. Tron
Yeah.
Legacy, yeah, with CG'd
Jeff Bridges.
and
Yeah.
non-CG Jeff Bridges.
And
He's
David
a lot
Bowie.
older, by the way.
David Bowie.
Yeah.
Isn't he the guy in the...
That's Michael Sheen.
No, that was Michael Sheen, yeah.
No, the guy who's in the bar. He runs the bar.
That's Michael Sheen.
Who's Michael Sheen?
Yeah, he played Frost in Frost Nixon. He's in Underworld movies.
He's in the Underworld movies. Yeah, that's the only place I know him from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mostly because when I wasn't staring
Plays
at the
Tony
leather, I was
Blair.
staring at that. But to get back to the point, even if you look at something as simple as the Tron Legacy soundtrack, it tells that story. You can listen to that entire soundtrack after you've seen the movie, and well, in this case, you would have to see the movie obviously to understand everything that's going on. But you can actually recreate a lot of that in your head just by listening to the music. It's you have your really hard kind of fight music in a way when you have a tension scene, stuff like that. But it's taking something as beautiful as orchestral sound and making it into an electronic form of that. So it's almost like it's, in my opinion, Daft Punk is like the Mozart of the electronic type music. Past that, I don't have much else to say, but that's it. It's obviously a newer band, and I'm sure somebody's going to come up with something way older for a duo. But I don't think
It's a little more modern than the other choices.
way more modern, I'm sure. But it's one of those things, and a lot of people who really enjoy that type of music will most likely side with me on that. It tells a story through that type of electronic sound.
Okay, Jeff, who was your pick?
I chose Simon Garfunkel.
Obviously, great.
Reason I chose them was because I think they did what duos do best, which is harmonize. They harmonize really well together. Overall, they really, put their forces together to make a song sound great. They, wrote some of the best iconic songs of all time, and when you hear that song, it's Simon Garfunkel. It's just a great commentary on humanity a lot of the times, and it has a lot to do with the fact that they were blended in the folk genre, which really kind of describes kind of how the late 60s, early 70s went, which is the time their albums came out. So you have one of the best songwriters of all time with Paul Simon, and they continued to play together, even today. So they kept going together as far as performing together, and really, they didn't hate each other's guts. So I think that's
that's always a bonus.
They broke up for a bit.
They did break up.
They did hate each other for a while.
They did a little bit, but they don't anymore, and they continued to. They still play together.
Also, Art Garfunkel is replaceable by any human being that can hold a guitar. What was Paul Simon without Art Garfunkel?
Oh, I disagree.
Wildly successful. What was Art Garfunkel without Paul Simon? A piece of shit in the gutter.
Hey,
That's good.
that's a good point, but
I don't know if that takes away from their strength as a duo.
So let's be
or-
clear. We give Dave a guitar, we're good.
Yeah.
No, but Garfunkel didn't
Simon
hold the
and
guitar,
Dave.
right?
So, wait. So, what's Elvis? Did he didn't play any music?
He at least held the guitar and pretended. Garfunkel just stood there.
There's tons of iconic singers that are everyone will say, oh, they're one of the best of all times. Just because Garfunkel was with someone he was harmonizing with and was undershadowed by Paul Simon's songwriting ability doesn't mean he's any less good.
Was he? Was it kind of like? But was it Simon with Garfunkel more really, like than and Garfunkel, because it was a Batman and Robin?
I wouldn't say that's necessarily true.
But like Simon and Mater could do just as well. And I think
That's
kind of
my
the
point.
I think that's kind of the point.
I don't think so.
And that's interchangeable. No matter which Mater we talk about.
I disagree. I don't think Simon and Garfunkel would have been the same thing. No one, I don't think, would have wanted to listen to those songs in the early 60s, throughout the 60s, if it wasn't harmonized. If it was just Paul Simon singing Sound of Silence, that song is not the same. It's not even close to being the same.
No, I agree, but anybody that could harmonize could step in there. Like, my point is that they were good as a duo, but Paul Simon carried that sumbitch. Like, he carried
All right,
Art
and
Garfunkel.
Not vocally.
Who's your pick,
I
Gerry?
disagree.
Okay, I struggled a little bit with this one because musical duo, that's hard. There's not too many. I went a little bit outside the box, and I went with a writing duo that performs in a larger group. So I went with Lennon and McCartney. I feel like Lennon and McCartney wrote
those two other guys.
some of the greatest songs that exist in human history. The longevity, the relatability, the quality of the writing by those two men is phenomenal, and I think unrivaled by any musician ever. The Beatles, Beatlemania, the British invasion came out of the minds of those two men. They changed rock music forever. Forever. They are in history as musical revolutionaries.
Really?
And there we go.
Lennon, McCartney, greatest guys ever. You know, like I posted about, there was this thing on how the NHL, all these players were saying, like, name the 4 Beatles, and they couldn't. Most of them.
They can name the 2 that were part of the duo, according to this guy.
At least they can name.
John Lennon was so popular that there was a dossier on him by the FBI because they thought one day he could become the president of the United States, even though he wasn't born in the continental United States.
Oh, absolutely.
How many
J.
songs
Edgar Hoover had a
did they write
dossier
together?
on him.
In the beginning, they were.
Almost all of them.
No,
I
not
don't
later
think
on.
so. Especially from '67 to the end, they didn't write that much together. A lot of their songs were, that's a McCartney song, that's a Lennon song.
But they got credited together.
That doesn't count though. This because they agreed to do that. I think.
But the same could be said about Simon and Garfunkel.
But they were almost in a...
How much did Garfunkel really write of any of those
Nothing.
songs?
Here, sing this, you dumb fuck. Okay. With my goofy hair.
Okay. You fucking monkey, get over here.
I just why. All right, well, Paul Simon, he eventually did go on his own, but he still trusted Garfunkel to sing "Bridge Over Troubled Water," which is the highest grossing song they ever did, and that's at the end of their career.
Paul Simon went on his own and was great and successful. Art Garfunkel was never heard from again because he has no talent.
He has
no You give him
his
something.
His hair is a talent, though. Let's face it.
I'm sure you give Art Garfunkel something and say, "Hey, sing this." It's great. Sounds great. Art, write something. And then it sells nothing because he sucks.
Wow, Gerry, you really
okay.
Lennon and McCartney broke up and both had vastly successful solo careers.
Yeah,
showing that they are both
when it has to do with the question about the best
duo. Showing that they're both actually good.
What about Daft Punk? We forgot about that.
Okay.
Well, you know why we forgot about that?
I know
because without
nothing
even
about
writing
Daft Punk.
lyrics, they still do well.
I'm
tales
completely ignorant about Daft Punk. I do not enjoy that kind of music. I don't think it's good.
Songs,
I think if the computer was never invented,
crap,
if the computer was never invented, Daft Punk wouldn't exist. So that's not music.
If the piano was never invented, Glenn McCartney would never.
Piano's an instrument. Instruments play music.
Yep.
Yeah, but you can't make music.
Not a musical instrument.
You can't make music.
So every music that was made in the 80s with the synthesizers is now out for you, right? Like that's not music.
I hate
right?
80s music. It's terrible. The 80s is like a shit stain on the earth of the world.
There's not one good song in the 80s?
There's some, but like the stuff he's talking about with synthesizers and new wave and all that shit, that is garbage.
That Punk though, they play some instruments on a bunch of their tracks. They just they play a guitar here and there. They
play guitars. They play almost every musical instrument that you'd see on a normal stage show nowadays.
In terms of instrumentalism, or is that a word?
Yeah. I don't know, but you just made it.
It's a word now.
It's a fucking internet. We'll put it on Wikipedia and we're done.
Like Paul Simon really only plays guitar, right? He doesn't play anything else.
I think he knows how to play piano.
So, yeah, I think he does.
Yeah.
And can Garfunkel play anything other than tambourine?
Probably banjo.
It's not about that though. Exactly. It's what I said at the beginning.
You said that the biggest thing with duos is that they're harmonized.
Yes.
And in terms of harmonies, it's definitely like Lennon McCartney, but also with George, right?
Well, their harmonies are that often present.
There is nothing more harmony going on than Daft Punk. Like, let's face it, you got time tracks to make sure you're harmonized. Like, I understand where you're coming from, and I get it, but I will say this, I don't think there was anything to do with the Beatles that was what I would consider harmonized.
We got 2 Americans, 2 Brits, and 2 Frenchmen.
Really?
In this, going head-to-head here.
2 British, French, and
2 Americans.
Yeah.
2 Jewish Americans.
Actually, good point.
French?
Daft Punk is from France.
Cheesy surrender monkeys. The French have never won anything in their existence, so Daft Punk can't win.
They won Grammys last
year.
year.
They won Grammys, yeah.
Why
Look at Celine Dion. She is a natural treasure.
Why do the French have so many civil wars? So they can win one every once in a while. Okay? They're not allowed to win things if you're from France. There,
They
done.
won a World Cup once too.
Yeah, they
That's
were
a travesty.
It's true.
Okay, well, this is a tough one. I need to hear one more argument about why Simon and Garfunkel shouldn't get it, because technically they had the best harmony. The Beatles are a stretch because they're not technically a duo.
I didn't say the Beatles. I said the writing duo of Lennon and McCartney.
But they never performed as just Lennon and McCartney.
No.
Ever, right? They're a songwriting team.
So I would automatically say that's not really a duo.
So, and then you got Daft Punk.
Because I consider that
more of an electronic group, an interesting choice.
It harmonizes by
I will say
like
that
click, click, now it sounds good.
But
if Lennon McCartney is out, I gotta throw my hat in the ring of Simon and Garfunkel.
I think I have,
because at least they do stuff.
At least they do stuff. Yeah.
The computer does everything for Daft
You just
Punk.
said a couple minutes ago that Garfunkel literally didn't do fuck all, and now you're like, but at least they do stuff. I've already fucking lost him, and I'm just gonna go with him because fuck those French guys. That's exactly what you just said. And now you're telling me that, Simon Garfunkel, well, they're not too bad because fuck those French guys. Like, that's pretty much what you said. Let's be honest here.
That's more or less.
Well, that's not why I'm going to give it to Simon and Garfunkel. They win the round.
I don't feel bad for losing that round, quite honestly.
They got.
I love that.
I'm just looking at like Simon Garfunkel's songs here. These are some of the biggest songs ever. And
I think that makes it 1-1 all around, eh, boys?
They technically did have the best harmony, probably that I can think of.
All right.
You know what?
Duo.
True harmony, absolutely. I will give
All
it.
right.
Pure duo.
We're tied at 1 point apiece after 3 rounds, so everybody's on the board.
Everybody's on the board. We are all winners, gentlemen. We can get to go out for ice cream after.
Okay,
Yes.
moving to the next.
Nice!
The next round is sports. Here we were asked, what is the most iconic dynasty in North American professional sports? So no fucking Europe shit, no fucking whatever.
So fuck you,
want.
Manchester.
The Mighty Reds.
Yeah,
Fuck the Mighty Reds.
No fucking Manchester United bullshit or anything like that.
Oh, that's cool.
'Cause
Red Devils.
I'm not going to know what it is, so we're sticking to North
And
America.
for the record, I didn't pick the Devils.
That's
All
fine.
right, even though I do like the Devils, but no, I didn't pick them because I do not feel any team that started in '82 is a dynasty. Sorry,
Yeah. Right.
it just doesn't.
We left this a little open-ended, what really dynasty means, but everybody can kind of make their arguments of why they
this
think
wasn't about Chinese teams then.
no Chinese,
Oh shit!
no European, or Australian or anything else. So
I had to throw
we're going to go to Jeff first. Jeff, who was your answer to the greatest sports franchise ever?
I chose the Boston Celtics. Now, the reason why
Interesting.
The reason why I chose the Boston Celtics was because when the NBA started in, I think it's 1947, from that time up until now, they've won the most championships. They won 11 out of 10 years. 10 out of 11 years, sorry. They have had some of the most iconic players of all time, but they just won. They only lost, I think, 4 times in the finals. I could be wrong about that, but I think that's right.
I think it's close.
And they just don't lose, and they beat their rival almost every time, which is Los Angeles Lakers. They've only lost to them twice.
Yeah, but losing to the Lakers now, that's not a very hard thing.
But I'm talking about the
Lakers are
overall
terrible
dynasty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I could win probably against the Lakers now. And
The Lakers now is different.
I got a basketball in my trunk. We could.
But no, I see what you're saying. Like they had their time. Like they
They did absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
They just didn't lose very often. This is what was my initial point.
I'll agree with
They
that.
also won the most out of their league, which I think is important. They also won. They didn't start winning until the 50s, and they just won a whole bunch in a row.
So
And
the Celtics.
they only lost 1 year in the 1960s, and that was 1967. Only year they lost. And that no one will ever complete that, I think, even match that, which was win consistently throughout a whole decade, and no one even really touched them.
Okay, and just for a little, I did a little research on each one of your picks here. So the Celtics, they are one of the original 8 teams that survived the first decade. They are one of 17 championships. No, the franchise, they have won 17 championships, I'm sorry. The most of any NBA franchise.
Sure.
And they account for 25% of all of championships ever. So they've won out of once every 4 years they've won the NBA title.
That's impressive.
Since 1946.
I will say that's impressive.
Okay, so
That I didn't know.
all right, we're gonna move to Gerry next. Gerry, who was your pick?
I picked the New York Yankees.
Okay, tell me why. Why is the
Who doesn't know the pinstripes? Everyone. I don't care if you're a baseball fan or not. I don't care if you're a Yankees fan or not. That brand, that franchise, you know it. Everyone knows it. They've had some of the greatest players of all time. When you're talking about Joe DiMaggio, you're talking about Babe Ruth, you're talking about Lou Gehrig. Lou Gehrig, iconic. Like these guys
He has
are
a disease, like Christ. Like
named after him.
He's got a
come
disease
on.
after him. He's obviously popular. Like
His speech with the Yankees on his last game today, I'm the luckiest man alive.
That is a beautiful
That is
speech.
iconic. It is heartwarming.
It is. Yeah.
Everyone knows that.
when
It's
you think
everywhere.
when you think New York City,
The Yankees consistently win championships, or at the very least are in the running for championships. They're known as the evil empire. People hate them or they love them. They're very polarizing in sports. They're iconic not just in New York, around the world. To your point about the stuff about Boston, I didn't know any of that. But I know, you know what I mean? And I don't think that there's many people that would. And for me to be iconic, people have to know. They have to know what your franchise is about. There is a cheer that is used in all of sports that is called the Bronx Cheer, and that was created by Yankees fans. If that's not iconic, I don't know what is. That is literally an icon to the Yankees.
They are the oldest of the teams you've all picked.
Yeah.
They were first created in 1903, but they were originally the New York Highlanders, then became the New York Yankees in 1913. So they have won.
Screw those Scottish people.
They have won the most successful club championships. Oh no, they were one of the most successful clubs in professional sports history worldwide. They've won 18 division titles, 40 pennants, AL pennants, and 27 World Series.
Wow. It's too bad it's baseball.
I don't know.
It really is. Like it kind of sucks that it's baseball.
All right.
That'd be impressive.
Jody, who was your pick?
Well, honestly, when it comes to just straight out dynasties, you know what? I picked the Montreal Canadiens because I'm Canadian, okay, and hockey is what our game is. Now, did it say the dynasty of North America? Absolutely, and Canada is only a mere fraction of that. Well, not a mere fraction.
We're bigger than them.
We're bigger, but we
Is
have
it
less
more,
people.
it's not.
We got more
half.
room to shit. That's for sure.
Canada makes about
Like I can go camping and shit anywhere and not like get seen.
If
know
you
what I'm
count,
saying? But like in America, big problem. Big problem.
if you count Mexico and the Caribbean, we're at what, like a half, a
Yeah,
third?
something like that.
Because we got.
I'm
all
not
the-
talking land mass. I'm just talking population. We're what 1/10.
Yeah,
We're getting off topic of
10%
the
anyway.
Montreal
Either
Canadiens
way,
here.
Montreal Canadiens, a dynasty to hockey, plain and simple. I cannot stand the team, but when it comes to when you think of a team, if you're a Canadian-raised boy who was raised on hockey like I was, you think the Canadians. My mother is a Canadiens fan. She makes sure I know it every time they win a game, even though I can't stand them. It's, she's followed them since she was a youngin'. Same here. It's even though I can't stand them, I still watch every game that goes on if I get a chance. It's hypnotic. And I think you'll find a lot of people, especially people our age groups and stuff like that, who when there isn't their favorite team on playing, they're probably tuning into a Montreal game. It's bizarre, and I found myself doing it all the time. And I ask others of my friends, and the same thing. It's always good hockey. They've won, I think it's 24 or 22 cups.
24.
Is it 24?
Yep.
Now, very old, obviously, original 6. It's to me that is what a dynasty is. But I have a bias because I'm Canadian. It's that simple. But I will tell you, my second pick was the Yankees. Absolutely. And now, not to discredit the Celtics, but I will go exactly with what you said, Gerry, which is I didn't fucking know any of that.
Any of that.
And I like the NBA, and don't get me wrong, I love watching basketball.
I
There's
hate
nothing
basketball.
better than watching a live basketball game.
No,
It's
there
phenomenal.
Did you had no
But
idea
bashing your head against the
yeah,
wall
that
is
the
better.
Celtics were
No,
the
that's
team.
baseball to me, but
Celtics were the number one team ever of basketball because you think of like
Yeah.
Michael Jordan a lot, right?
I wouldn't
Right.
think of the Celtics being the
No.
number one. But you know what? Knowing just the facts that you brought up that makes me think twice about them anyway. And looking back, I always saw them, but it wasn't. I'm with Gerry on this one. I didn't fucking know any of that.
No idea.
Like, no idea any of that. But
And
you know
for
what?
me, to
I
be
knew what number.
iconic, people need to know.
I knew what number Jordan
But is-
played, and I knew what a lot of
Is
his stats
iconic
were.
just about how people know you, or also about how much you just win as a dynasty? There's two parts to the question: iconic and dynasty.
Well,
It's
that's
not, it's
true.
not only about
And-
how people know
and
you, but it's at
specifically
least a
North
little
American.
bit.
And it's
Right.
not necessarily performance either, because you could have an iconic team that does poorly. Like
That's true.
Maple Leafs, perfect example. Sorry, but that
they're
is a
terrible,
perfect
and I
example.
know it.
They've also won the
Terrible
second most
team.
cups.
Terrible teams. Yeah, second most cups when there was only 6 teams.
But that's all of the Habs cups too. So I can't. And
True.
And
The
they won
majority of the
after.
Habs cups are definitely during the 6. Absolutely.
If the Habs were like the Leafs, never won past 1967, I don't think we'd be talking about them. But all these teams that you've said,
But the Leafs, even though they haven't won a cup since '67, have one of the largest followings in the sport. It's still a dynasty, in my opinion.
I agree.
It's not the dynasty that
It's
is
a
Montreal.
business dynasty.
it's number 2.
It is a business dynasty. It is a duck dynasty, my friends.
but it's always been second fiddle to the Habs.
Absolutely. And
I would
any
say-
day they are second fiddle.
And I would disagree with that. But anyway.
Okay, the Habs, they've won 27 cups. They were founded in 1909.
Wow.
They've won 25% of the cups ever,
Yep.
almost on par with the Celtics.
Which still surprises the shit out of me. That's incredible.
It's the second most successful professional sports team of the traditional major four sports, behind only the Boston Celtics.
Okay, I want to make a point also about the Celtics. You got to remember, they didn't start till 1947. These teams started like early 1900s.
20 years before that.
Yeah, 25 years, I think. So,
But another thing too, I'm just going to say it. When you think baseball, you think New York Yankees. If you're not a fan,
That's my problem. I don't think baseball because baseball is terrible.
I'm saying the casual person, hey, the game of baseball, first team comes to your head, New York Yankees. Like you said about even, I don't agree, but Montreal Canadiens. Someone says, hey, hockey, first team comes to your head, Montreal Canadiens.
You ask like somebody.
You talk to somebody about basketball, who's the first team that comes to your head? Chicago Bulls.
Lakers.
Something like nobody says the Celtics.
I don't think there is any.
You can't be iconic if nobody knows about your accomplishments.
It depends when you're talking.
You can accomplish all this shit in the world, but if nobody knows about it, you're not an icon.
Yeah.
An icon is something that people look up to. They try to emulate that, and if nobody knows about your accomplishments...
There's nobody that runs it right now and goes, I want the play style of the Celtics.
Okay, let's
You know what I mean? Like,
let's look at just the Habs and the Yankees for a second. So in terms of North America, right? In Canada, yeah, we all know hockey, but we go to the States. How many of them know the Montreal Canadiens?
Oh, I think a lot of
There's
them
a
still
few,
do.
but
are you
baseball's-
going to compare it to baseball? No, baseball definitely wins
That's
against
their,
hockey in the
that's their
States.
sport, or
Absolutely.
whatever. They're
Baseball
not-
also beats basketball, probably.
Yeah, I would say
would you say in popularity today? Because I wouldn't.
And I would just say,
basketball has gotten
if you look
majorly
purely,
more popular over
even
the last 10
outside
years.
of the sports world, the New York Yankees are more known than the Celtics and the...
Well, that's because
and the
gangster rappers of the 90s wore their hats backwards. That doesn't necessarily make them the icon that you think they are. It's
still a statement. It's still...
Absolutely.
They are probably a fan of that team or, the style.
And
The
there's probably a couple
pinstripes,
guys in
the-
Dartmouth, Nova Scotia that wear Montreal Canadiens hat backwards. So we're still back, we're good. We're there. But to me, the problem that I have with calling something a dynasty is, to me, it has to be a popular sport. And a popular sport to me is not baseball, even though, yes, it is.
But it is
very popular.
statistically...
Some would argue much more. In the States, they would say baseball over hockey.
Absolutely. And I'm sure they would. And that's
Throughout
why they're
the
wrong.
majority of the
But and you know what? No offense to any of our American friends, and I love America.
I do not.
wholeheartedly. Well, I do, but because without them we wouldn't exist. Let's face it.
Oh, that is bullshit.
You know damn well.
That
we
is
wouldn't. We wouldn't exist in
Another
our
argument for another day.
No.
Well, it is
I have some points on that. And we'll have to get to that in another episode. But I mean more of in our current sense. They provide us a lot of security, all that crap. But anyway, another thing.
Oh, the Americans?
What? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. He's propping up the Americans.
I am propping the Americans. But the Americans don't know fuck all about sports because they think baseball is the best fucking thing in the world.
They
It
also
doesn't
think-
make sense.
No, we left of the big four that got left out.
Cricket is more exciting than baseball.
Football got left out.
Which I think football is the thing Americans go nutso
They go
over the most.
insane.
Oh, they do go.
Then I think it is not baseball. I think it is basketball. Baseball is a sport you go watch it and you just kind of have a nice afternoon. In a park.
To Jeff's point, I've never heard of anybody that said that they didn't enjoy going to a basketball game.
But
Right here, I
basketball's
hate
on
basketball.
Well, yeah, but you're Gerry. Okay.
It's terrible. It's like, who can run? It's like wind sprints. To me, basketball is wind sprints. I can run from this side to this side of the court faster than you because we
But
score
that's exactly
every
what
fucking time.
Baseball is.
No,
You're running
because
between
somebody
one
doesn't-
base and another.
Yeah, but
It's
somebody
not
doesn't
simple.
get a hit
But
every
you do
time.
it 4 fucking times, and you wait a half an hour for anything to
You
happen.
look at basketball, it's just like scores.
Okay, we're getting off topic.
Someone touches
Either way,
their
we're back
arm
to
and that's a
dynasties.
foul.
We're off topic.
It's a dynasty.
The question was which of these sports is the best and which is the worst.
Either way, I still stick.
I don't think
the
that was the
Yankees-
question.
That's not the original question.
The
What's the
original
most
question was
iconic,
dynasty, was it not?
iconic dynasty of
The
North
Yankees
America?
are the
Which,
most-
let's face it, is Montreal.
The Yankees are the most iconic sports team, I think, in the world. So
I think the
I would-
Celtics won the most, and basketball is now more of an iconic sport
I
than
can't give
baseball.
it to the Celtics because I don't like.
Because you didn't know that either.
I don't think anybody who watches I watch basketball in passing. I never knew that the Celtics were the
I didn't either,
were the
and
Yankees.
I enjoy basketball.
That's how I keep thinking about it. The Yankees. I'm like the Habs are like the Yankees, or
See, that right there says it all. They're like, you're comparing another team to being like the Yankees, making the Yankees above them.
I would say, like, the Yankees are the Habs of baseball.
No.
Right?
Okay, I think in fairness, I
You're
think what
comparing
makes
other dynasties to being like the Yankees. You wouldn't put...
It depends on how we define dynasty. If we define dynasty by accomplishments, the Celtics,
then it's Habs.
No,
it still Habs to win, but to your point, they're very accomplished. Did I fucking know about it? No. All right, and that's where dynasty comes in, and even iconic. Even
I think
so.
iconic. You can't be an icon if no one knows.
Yeah,
like you can't. Everyone knows the pinstripes. Everyone knows Babe Ruth. Yeah. Everyone. Everybody knows these things. Everyone knows the NY.
Even people who don't like baseball?
Even people that don't like baseball.
New York is the most famous city as well. So
I'm going to have to give it to Gerry. Jerry's Yankees wins. They are the most
only because you used the term iconic. If you took iconic out of it, fuck.
What is the best dynasty? I think the Celtics by far would win that.
Round's over, boys.
Round 4 is over.
Into your beers later, all right? Make a country song about it. Do what you got to do.
He won that because the word iconic was in that question.
He won it because of iconic, but you wouldn't have won it anyway. Let's face it.
I had to call it. I had to call it.
And let's face it, if Gerry wasn't there on that one and iconic was out, Montreal would have won that.
If ifs and buts were candy and nuts.
Round 5. This category is history, because we got some history buffs here. We thought that would be a funny one. It brings it outside of the world of just like trivial things.
Oh, I remember what this is now.
Okay.
We're good.
Now, for the history question, this was a hard one to ask, or well, not the question itself, but just to come up with.
I had a hard time with the actual phrasing of this question more than anything. That was the biggest problem.
Yeah, I did too, but
he asked me about it too. He was like, "What does it mean?"
I knew what it meant.
It was an odd question.
The question is, who was the most significant world leader of the 20th century? The key word there being significant. Now, it doesn't have to be most popular. It doesn't have to be best. It could be worst. But have the most.
That's the problem that I had with that question.
Yeah,
me too.
Very open-ended.
But I came up with something.
Okay, so we're gonna start with Gerry.
Joseph Stalin.
I thought you were gonna pick Hitler.
I was going to. It was between Hitler and Stalin.
I was kind of surprised no one picked Hitler.
But I said Stalin because
when you go
Stalin,
that's what it is.
Not that I wanted a Hitler.
Stalin killed more people than Hitler, hands down. Sure. He had influence, hands down, over more people. And I feel like his legacy or what he was attempting lived on long after his death. Where Hitler died and Hitler was over. And that was it. And yes,
we're still reaping that.
For entertainment purposes and things like that. But Germany is nothing what Hitler wanted, right? You look at the impact that Stalin and communism has had on Russia, and you could argue that they're still not recovered. Stalin played both sides. Stalin had a non-aggression pact with Hitler, and he was a very strong ally with the Allies, Britain, America.
He switched sides.
No, he played both sides.
He got attacked by the Nazis and he switched.
Yeah, but if you
play
both sides one at a time, you're switching sides. Then you're not playing both sides.
But he had a non-aggression pact and he was still helping the Allies through the whole time. It's not like he was just saying, "Okay, I'm not going to fight Hitler and I'm not going to help you guys go to hell." He was saying, "Hitler's not going to invade me, but I'm still going to help you guys." He was playing both sides until he got attacked, which means he was significant in both camps. Many would argue that the only reason that Hitler lost the Second World War is because he went into Russia. Stalin being in charge of Russia, very significant.
Got a little pissy about it.
The whole world would have played out differently if Stalin wasn't the leader in that situation, because people were afraid of Stalin. They didn't want to disappoint him because they would die. And even he controlled so much. He forced a famine upon 1 million people. 1 million people died in the Ukraine because of him.
He said, kill the Ukrainians.
No, he took all their food and distributed it out into the cities, which caused his 5-year plan of economic growth to produce more economic growth within a 5-year span than any other industrialized nation in the history of the world. Then he dies. And he's still influential because the Cold War and what he started in Russia, What Stalin made of Russia was nothing compared to what Lenin or Trotsky or the leaders that came before him wanted of Russia. He made it his own. And that was significant because it kept going down that road even today.
I do know this. I looked this up. Stalin is attributed between 20 million and 40 million deaths as the result of his regime's actions.
And most of that was his own people.
Right.
Yeah, half of it. About half.
And
20 to 40 million, it says.
And you look, and his allies wanted to invade because of him after the war was over with Germany. You look at a guy like Patton, realized how significant Stalin was and how much of a figurehead he was in that nation, so he wanted to invade Russia, and they said no, thus ushering in the Cold War. And then Patton died and was arguably a hit by his own government. That's for another day.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. I said arguably.
Or they just flipped the Jeep. But anyway, yeah. And so I feel Stalin was an intensely significant figure of the 20th century. So much happened because of that man.
Also, Mao Zedong, not to argue Gerry's point, but Mao Zedong was also heavily influenced by Stalin, and that had a whole other implication on...
All right, let's go to Jody. Who is your answer for this?
Gandhi.
You said Mahatma Gandhi.
Mm-hmm. I was going for the positive on this one.
Yeah, you went...
I went the opposite way that I normally go, which is actually Hitler was going to be my choice. But
Significant,
absolutely.
Gandhi meant a lot to the people of India and Pakistan.
Absolutely.
In good and bad ways.
Well,
depending on who you are.
Everybody, yeah. Well,
and
it depends on who you were in that scenario.
Mostly the Hindus. He would. Yeah. They made a movie of him. They made a movie of all these guys, right?
And let's face it, good actor played him too, which is that's pretty decent.
Ben Kingsley.
Ben Kingsley, man.
It's a long ass movie.
Yeah,
it is a long ass movie. What does that thing clock in?
But,
3.5? 3.5.
He meant a lot to a billion people, I guess, or something, right? It's okay. So
is
why Gandhi? Why is he the most significant?
I think in 100 years, when society has vastly changed from what it even is today, teachings as well as the lessons learned from Gandhi's life will still continue. Stalin, as you said, very influential, and I to a point absolutely agree with that. But in 100 years from now, how much more influence is he still going to have on society? Yes, he has some now, and yeah, even current Russia, the way it is, it's still there. A lot of the effects of what happened with him did obviously continue on. The way I look at Gandhi is society learned a lot of lessons from that life. And I think in 100 years from now, we're still going to be teaching those lessons. And it was for the better.
I would disagree.
Okay.
How often do you make your own salt from the sea? How often do you make your own clothes?
True.
Not very often.
No.
Gandhi spoke up against
I've never
an
done those
imperial invader.
Never what?
I've never done those things.
No?
Gandhi spoke against being
I've grounded my own
occupied.
salt. That's about as close as I've gone.
That's what he spoke against, and that has no relevance in today's world.
That's not true. A lot of
I don't know
people...
about that.
Not in our country, anyway.
Okay, fair enough, I guess.
But I'm talking. The question was the influence, greatest
The
influence.
significance.
Significance is the word.
Well, significance, yes, and some people would say that influence is a part of that. But anyway,
Okay.
I would argue
Do you have
that...
more to argue about Gandhi?
not really. I think it's self-explanatory.
I would also argue that even without Gandhi, India would have achieved independence from Britain. Therefore, his life, if he didn't exist, India would be in the
You
exact
will
same
never
spot
know the
it is
answer to
today.
that question because he was.
You could say Russia.
Oh,
would
you
have been the
definitely
same
would.
place.
You could think about it logically. You could say Britain was at the end of its reign as far as being an imperial power. They didn't have the money.
So you're
and
telling
the
me that-
only reason they stayed in India for as long as they did is because they didn't want to appear weak in the face of one single person who was mobilizing an entire nation.
You could say if Stalin hadn't existed, Russia would have done the same things as they did.
See, to me, that's a little different. We're talking about the situation. Gandhi was significant in the sense that a lot of people knew him and he rallied a lot of people. But what I'm saying is that I feel eventually, one day, as they did with Canada, Britain would have left India anyway because it was not financially viable.
In the world.
Well, they're
So
a business
every-
culture. plain
So
and simple.
everybody credits Gandhi to ridding India of England, or of Britain, but he didn't. It would have happened anyway. It was inevitable. The colonial age was coming to an end. Gandhi was
it was
just...
the rise that he's
Gandhi's just a
credited for. It
figurehead.
just happened to be the Britons.
Gandhi's just a figurehead. He's just a guy that you can point to that and you can rationalize it.
Okay, let's go to Jeff's pick.
Okay, I chose John F. Kennedy.
I was gonna too, and then I was like, but he's a whoremonger.
Yes, that was the one part of John F. Kennedy. I was like, damn, I wish
I was
it
like,
wasn't that.
Jeff will attack me for that, and then I won't have anything I can say against it.
So let's just get that whoremonger. Okay, anyway.
There was a hesitation to pick him, but the reason why I picked him was I kind of wanted to do kind of both of what these guys were doing at once. Okay, so if John F. Kennedy had not, I don't think we'd be talking if it wasn't for him and his work during the Cuban Missile Crisis. I think a lot of nukes would have been fired in 1962, and now we could be living in a real bad world if it wasn't for John F. Kennedy. So his significance overall, I think today, is the world we would live in could be totally vastly different if it was not for him. Whereas with Stalin, he was going to kill millions of people no matter what, and the world is what it is today because of him, but also it was not going to necessarily be as significantly changed. So that's why I picked John Kennedy on the good side. On the bad side, his assassination and his involvement before that, trying to keep the Americans out of Vietnam, the Canada didn't go, but led to his assassination and America going to war for decades after, and still, are involved in military bases all over the world. So that's millions of deaths and significant amounts of, jobs created. So I guess that's significant. but
Okay, but if you have to say what's the most significant with John F. Kennedy, the most significant thing about him was, he was assassinated, but he arguably averted the Cuban Missile Crisis. He dealt with it in a way that prevented nuclear war.
He also arguably started the Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay, that's like giving Nonis credit for getting rid of Clarkson. It's like, Clarkson was your fucking mistake. It's like, yeah, Kennedy, you fucked up. You better fix this.
I don't agree. I think Khrushchev...
Trade him for a guy that'll never play
It's
again.
been well documented that Khrushchev purposely put those missiles in Cuba
But
to
first,
start...
the missiles were in Turkey.
Thank you.
True.
America, how can you be pissed about Russia having missiles on sovereign land when you're doing the same thing and the order came and you signed it? And now you're going to play all sanctimonious like you don't do shit wrong? Like you don't have missiles in Turkey pointed at Moscow?
I totally agree with you, but at the same time, I don't think the crisis started until nukes were put in Cuba. So that's the start of the crisis.
But from Russia's point of view, you're just supposed to sit and twiddle your thumbs?
No, I totally agree with what Russia did.
Fuck it. Well,
No, I don't think it was
can
good.
blow us up.
No, I totally agree, but at the same time, what is more significant is the fact that Kennedy didn't listen to all the warmongers in his cabinet and not necessarily cabinet, but also especially Joint Chiefs. He didn't listen to all these plans to go to war with Russia, which would have been terrible for the society we live in today.
He twice tried to assassinate Fidel Castro.
His CIA did.
Twice!
Not necessarily
The Bay of Pigs is widely regarded as one of the greatest military blunders of all time.
Right.
Maybe behind the charge of the Light Brigade.
It's not like JFK necessarily planned all the intimate details. He just went, sign where? Okay.
Oh, okay. So he took something of immense importance and went, what? All right, fuck it. Do it. I don't need to read it.
But he learned from that. It was Bay of Pigs happens right when he gets elected, and he does it right away. He just listens to his government. Then he all of a sudden understands that he has to not listen to his government and start doing things as a president should, which is think for yourself, do what you feel is right, and then you can live with yourself at the end of the day. Whereas, Stalin, that has a totally different, point of context here.
All right, tell me why.
I would say Stalin changed Russia more than JFK or Gandhi changed India and America, respectively. Before Stalin, there was one railroad track in Russia. It ran from St. Petersburg to Moscow. After Stalin, because of his intense mobilization of industry so that they could compete with Stalin brought Russia into the Western industrialized world. They were decades and decades behind the rest of the world. They would lose any war. They weren't equipped. They had no means to transport any equipment or even infrastructure or people. Stalin created Russian infrastructure. He took them from a rural farming community to a world superpower in 10 years. That is unprecedented. Now, I'm not talking about the way he did it, because the way he did it was beyond contempt. but he did it, and that's significant.
So do we take the context of this question as being a worldwide influence, or do we take this context of influence to their people? Because
It says world leader.
World leader, okay.
So I think you have to also look at how they led the world.
Yep.
So
And leader can be defined in many different ways.
now
It's-
Kennedy won a Pulitzer Prize. He was the only president who's ever done that.
Hitler was Man of the Year in Time magazine.
But he's not on.
But I'm just saying, prizes and magazine awards and things like that, that doesn't mean shit.
Nobody's
about how
making
you
an
lead a
argument for
country.
Hitler.
There's
If
not
they
much-
were, they could say Man of the Year, but he's.
That's true.
I don't think one Man of the Year really does it.
I don't think one
That's like
Pulitzer
saying your
does
country
it.
is fantastic because it got the Olympics one year.
Well, Stalin has no Pulitzer, right?
Stalin wouldn't have Pulitzer, I don't think. and you know what? If he did, I would be fucking all over that. I would.
You're right. He only transformed the economy of an entire nation, which JFK
Yeah, but he
did
didn't
not
get
do
a
for the
Pulitzer,
United
all right?
States.
So, like, park your fucking
Jeff,
tank,
tell
okay?
me why Gandhi and Stalin aren't the most significant world leaders.
Okay, for one, I
I think
think
we kind of cleared up the Stalin thing.
I don't think Gandhi necessarily counts on the same context of Stalin and Kennedy do, where they were actually on the world stage representing their country. I guess Gandhi did, but he was fighting oppression, which is a little different. Which also JFK
In violence.
Yeah, JFK's assassination prevented in America is the civil rights, the whole civil rights movement necessarily didn't have to go down the way it
The
did.
International Day of Nonviolence is his birthday.
Yep.
Kennedy's.
Gandhi's.
Okay. I don't think it's Kennedy.
Kennedy's birthday has something to do with blowjobs and wands.
I was gonna say.
How significant is the International Day of Nonviolence? Didn't even know it existed. And now that I do, I'm going to look it up so I can punch someone in the face and ignore it.
It's a fact.
You've obviously lost touch to what that day is all about, though.
Basically, Gandhi's greatest worldwide legacy is his nonviolence, pacifist point of view.
Which doesn't work.
Stalin's greatest worldwide legacy is that he basically
Butchered a lot of
took Russia to a major superpower,
Whole new heights.
which shaped future events.
And he was massively significant in how World War II played out. Let's not
Okay.
forget that.
He was significant.
instrumental in the Allied
Decisions he made changed the world.
Oh, changed the world forever.
Would the Allies have won the war without him, though?
No,
I would say no.
not
And-
a chance.
And I know I'm kind of
Well, not
hyping
him.
this
It's his
scenario.
country.
But he was the leader. He made the decisions for that country.
Okay. And JFK, he stopped the world from getting destroyed by nuclear war.
But he also almost caused the world to get destroyed by nuclear war.
Fair enough.
But if you watch 13 Days,
One hand
basically,
washes the other, no?
The U.S. and Russia were going at each other. It wasn't one man's fault.
No, and I know it's ideology.
They're both douchebags.
But JFK and his brother and Kevin Costner played.
The guy Kevin Costner played. You know, that memorable guy. And, you know, that guy that Kevin Costner played.
The guy with the bad Boston accent.
We're not talking about Waterworld.
Bobby, whatever the fuck is that?
Go on.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the three of them somehow figured out a way not to look weak, not to have to get Berlin attacked, not to lose their principles, but to figure a way out of nuclear war through some backroom deals, right?
All I'm saying, and
I thought
keep
it was
this in
Matthew
mind.
Broderick that stopped this thing.
Keep in mind, do you not see how there's a little bit of perspective here? Do you think if we were four guys sitting around a table in Russia, do you think we'd be talking about how Stalin and his administration showed great restraint in not launching a bomb?
We
In
might,
100 years from now, do
And
you think
say
they'll be
the
able to?
same thing.
we might not exist in Russia because if JFK hadn't done his job, nukes would have been flying back and forth. So
in Russia, would they be saying if Khrushchev had
done his
gotten
job
us
or
out-
Stalin, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Stalin
Let's
was,
face it, how many people
It's
have
such-
told the British to fuck
Stalin
off
was
since?
dead before the Cuban Missile Crisis.
well, that's
Yes.
what I think. If
Oh,
Stalin
yeah.
had lived the Cuban Missile Crisis, we might not be sitting here because Stalin was one crazy.
Stalin
you
would have
know,
fucking made it happen.
Yeah, I think Khrushchev, was against, hardliners. Like a lot of he had to pretend to be really on the hardline agenda, but he was more of a soft leader
Moderate.
moderate for the
Yeah.
Soviets compared to the other leaders that they had.
Yes.
But he still went balls to the walls and said, "You know what, America, we're putting missiles in."
I would still argue, like, Stalin was greatly significant in even the development of the world map. Look at all the countries he took, made satellite states, changed the map of the world forever. Countries declared independence because of Stalin. Countries became into existence because of his actions. Belarus did not exist until he took that land, and then they wanted to fight for independence. So there's countries that exist because of his actions. There's countries that don't exist because of his actions. There's families wiped off the face of the planet because of his actions.
I totally agree with you.
I'm just making my point.
Saying,
his significance.
Like, overall significance, I think Stalin's World War II and, shortly right after he dies, that time was, of course, a whole bit, a large context in what happened in the 20th century, but I think when we moved into the age of the atom, Kennedy, takes it by far as significance of averting disaster.
I might have a trump card. There wouldn't have been a Cuban Missile Crisis for Kennedy to avoid had it not been for Stalin.
I totally agree with you.
So then his significance is born
I just
of
went
Stalin's
on this
significance.
one, and I probably shouldn't have. I should have been all negative like you fuckers, and I would have been fine.
Since Jeff completely agrees with you, I have to give it to Gerry.
I give it to Gerry too.
He wins just...
Well, I agree with the fact that it would not have happened.
You kind of gave away the round. You were kind of like... You were almost going to get...
Never admit that. Especially if it's Gerry. Fuck you, Gerry. You don't know what you're talking about.
I made my points. I totally agree with the fact that Stalin was more significant to, the World War II, but the overall 20th century...
I think in 100 years, neither one of your boys are going to be really all that cared about, but Gandhi's legacy will...
Gandhi...
Did you know that Gandhi's son killed himself because Gandhi refused to help him in life?
Yep.
Because he felt that every other citizen of India was more important than his own blood.
Gandhi was kind of a dick to his family.
He was addicted.
But that wasn't the question. Who was the biggest dick to his family?
I'm just saying, like...
Who hoarded the most, or
it's not like he was
anything else?
Because the biggest dick to the family, let's face it.
Stalin.
Stalin would have got it. Stalin would have got it.
He once killed every single person at a meeting, including his wife, because his wife got drunk and told everyone what kind of a dick he was. And everybody that was at that government meeting ended up dead, including his wife.
Well, that's not why he got it either. It wasn't for who was the most evil either.
No, I know.
But in terms of Stalin was involved in the revolution. He kind of shaped Russia into what it is today, and arguably he did more for Russia than maybe Kennedy did. You should have brought up civil rights. And
I did.
Yeah, but you didn't. You
sort of glanced over it.
I
was going to kind of, and then I was like, "No, shut up, Gerry."
I can only say so much. How much time do you want me to go on? History's a long
as long
time.
as it takes to make your points.
I think we need to not go with history next time.
History.
Let's stick to 90s sitcoms.
Okay, let's get back to something fun. We're going to round 6, the wild card. Who started last time?
I did.
Okay, so we'll start with Jody this time.
All right.
Okay.
What was the question?
The question is, what is the best science fiction franchise? Very simple question. Straightforward.
This is a fucking done deal, boys. I don't even know why we're bothering. Star Trek.
Star Trek's a piece of shit.
What do you mean Star Trek's a piece of shit?
That's exactly what I said.
And I love both Star Wars. I love pretty much almost all sci-fi for the most part. With the exception of Stargate, I do not fucking understand that show at all. Why people care. Okay, but anyway. There is no science fiction series that can change the world as Star Trek did. Plain and simple. Cell phones. Fucking everything we use now, technology-wise. Your tablet PCs. Everything came out of the noggin of Roddenberry and his team. It's that simple. You cannot find a science fiction franchise that didn't change the world more than Star Trek. Now, Star Wars, absolutely iconic in its own right, and I'm hoping one of the two of you picked that, because if not, I'll be pissed about it. Okay, but Star Trek, and it hurts me because I do love Star Wars as well. I'm actually one of those guys that like both. I'm all down with that. That's fine. Okay. But Star Trek to me is more influential. Everything that we use and enjoy nowadays, for the most part, has some tie into that. I think even Discovery did a whole documentary on it was kind of a farce, and it was how what's his name changed the world or whatever, Kirk.
Okay, yeah,
it's in there somewhere. But Yeah, just read your notes there, big guy.
Yeah.
But to me, and to get to that point, it not only was the storylines interesting, you had a variety of different shows with different types of ways of doing things. You had DS9, which was essentially a show that was all about politics. It was the political version of science fiction. You had Star Trek The Next Gen, which was better than the original in a lot of scenarios, but story-wise might not be so good in some scenarios. You have Voyager, completely the same thing in my opinion to some other stuff. But a lot of people enjoyed that show. Lady Captain, yeah, whatever. That was just the cinch for that. But Voyager probably is one of my least favorite ones, quite honestly. But with
Enterprise,
I actually liked Enterprise, and I'm like one of like 8 people that liked Enterprise. But I thought it was an interesting way. I liked some of the actors in it. Some of the storylines were.
Who in particular do you like?
You know what? I liked Bakula. Bakula was a lot of fun as a captain. I enjoyed it. It was different. It was
Quantum Leap guy.
Yeah, Quantum Leap guy, absolutely. But but with that, I just liked the fact that it was the mess up of space. This was like the sci-fi mess up of the entire series. You had the guys who didn't know fuck all going out and basically fucking up everything.
With Leonard Nimoy passing away Friday, you kind of saw how many people kind of came out and said,
absolutely,
can't believe Leonard Nimoy died. Everyone's
you can't tell me
it.
that everybody here, who I'm almost positive has a Facebook page, didn't get fucking spammed to hell about him dying. And it didn't matter who it was. It was a person that you wouldn't think even likes.
I'll tell you right now,
like science
I
fiction.
absolutely hate Star Trek, but I like Leonard Nimoy.
When he came in tonight, he looked at the Leonard Nimoy that we can see right in the apartment. He's like, that's pretty sad about Leonard Nimoy.
It is, absolutely. And you fucking hate Star Trek, which further proves my point that it's so influential and it is the best sci-fi franchise.
Speaking of which, did you see what people are doing to Canadian $5 bills?
They've been doing that for years. They're now doing it way more.
Coloring it, making it
they're
look...
coloring it in to make it look like
I never realized how much Wilfrid Laurier looked like Leonard Nimoy.
Absolutely. Especially after he gives him big-ass eyebrows.
It's just ridiculous.
They're drawing on the hair.
And you can't do that with the new Canadian 5, can you?
No, he doesn't quite look.
He doesn't look the same way. But
they made him a little younger. And
you can wonder if you can use dry erase on the plastic
Sharpie, maybe?
I bet those work pretty good. Yeah,
maybe Sharpie, yeah.
Okay.
Either way, we're off topic here, guys.
And what about the Star Trek movies?
It's not illegal.
That's a hit and miss for me. The Star Trek movies themselves, some of them are a lot of fun. Some of them were terrible, in my opinion, as well.
Some are really good.
Fantastic. The first one, terrible.
Yeah, not that good.
And, the Generation movies, a couple of them were okay. The other ones were terrible. There's no DS9 movies, thank fucking God, because we already have House of Cards. It's so influential, and no matter where you go on the globe, for the most part, somebody knows about Star Trek. And I'm not going to, certainly little villages in Uganda that have never had, a TV or wherever, that might be a little different. But, for the most part, our standard societies, everyone knows it. Okay. And just to, further the point with Nimoy and his death, and getting back to that whole Facebook thing, everybody knew it. Everybody knew who he was. And they're like, that's that guy from Star Trek. Star Trek. They knew that. Okay, and that to me makes it the most influential and, in my opinion, the greatest sci-fi franchise in the world.
All right, Jeff, what was your pick?
I picked the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Nice.
The reason why I picked it was because, number one, for just what I was hearing from Jody, I was hearing a lot of some of this is good. I like some of this.
True.
Whereas I find with Marvel Cinematic Universe, every movie they have come out with has been a good movie. The Avengers is, I think, number 2.
The Incredible Hulk movies were all...
The Hulk movies, Daredevil.
Not all the Hulk.
No. The Cinematic Universe.
Cinematic Universe specifically. So the original Hulk movie with Eric Bana doesn't count.
Doesn't count. I'm talking about Incredible Hulk.
Why? Why doesn't it count?
Because it's not part of the universe.
It's not part of the Cinematic Universe.
It was made by Marvel.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It does matter. It does not matter.
No, the X-Men movies don't count in this, and neither does the Fantastic Four.
Spider-Man.
Or Spider-Man.
So basically, you've taken a big chunk of something and said, "I'm going to just take the good little piece of it and go."
It's not the
That's
same
the
universe.
greatest there is.
It's not the same franchise, though.
It's the same fucking thing you just said to me, though. You said basically, "Oh, well, you know, Star Trek, you like some of it, but you didn't like some of it." No, I
But
took
it's
it
not
for
the
all
same
it was.
thing. It's not the same franchise. It's like saying like
It is.
Batman and
Star Trek is the
Superman
same
are
thing.
like the same franchise.
Well, Marvel.
But if that's the case, then Marvel isn't the franchise.
It is.
He's
It's a
saying
group of
specifically the cinematic universe, meaning only those movies that relate to each other in the same universe. They're not.
So everything that has to do with those fucking stones.
The Hulk is in the Avengers.
Yeah, the
Yes.
Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton.
There's two
counts.
Hulk movies. Only one of the movies is in the universe. The other is a
Yeah,
standalone.
the Norton Hulk
That's
is in the
bullshit. That's like saying if I ever fuck up, I'm just going to say it's not part of the
It's
universe,
not
and then you
the same.
can't count it towards that because it wasn't part. No, that movie sucked. I know, but that was over there.
That was a
This
different
is over
fucking
here.
Rolling Stone. No,
But it's not the same
Fucking
thing.
retarded. Yes, it is the same thing.
I'm with Gerry on this one. This
That's
is
the
fucking
Hulk
retarded.
character. The character of
The
Hulk
Marvel universe
made
as a
under the
whole
franchise
includes
name
fucking
of
X-Men.
Marvel.
It includes all
No,
of the
they've been
fucking
making movies in the
Incredible.
early 90s too, but it's not the same thing. It's not the cinematic universe that we are
They
watching
started with the same
today.
fucking flip thing at the
That's
front of
such
the movie.
a cop out.
Yeah, come on.
Oh no!
That
If
is
you're gonna
a
take
cop
Okay, Hulk doesn't count. That movie sucks. It's terrible.
exactly that movie sucks.
That one was shit. We don't count it. That's like the Star Trek universe guys going, you know what? The first Star Trek motion picture was shit.
It
And
was.
It was shit, but they still acknowledge it as being part of the fucking
Still acknowledge
franchise.
its existence.
Yeah, it's still there. And you guys are like, you know what? That one fucking Hulk is no good, but that other one with Norton, that was alright.
The
Star
motion
Wars
picture
picture-
episode 1, 2, and 3 don't count.
The-
And did the first Hulk have Jennifer Connelly in it?
don't count first
No,
Hulk.
Jennifer Connelly
doesn't
is-
count in what he.
That should count because Jennifer Connelly
can I
should
say my
count.
answer?
It's not his answer.
yeah,
His
yeah,
answer
I'm
was
sorry.
not
Yeah.
Marvel movies.
We hijacked his
Yeah.
answer. Go
Sorry,
on.
sorry.
It wasn't Marvel movies. All right.
And it wasn't. He doesn't get to play. Sorry, I'm just stating what he picked.
You're gonna get us off on a tangent again.
Okay.
We have hijacked his answer.
All right.
Go on, sir.
I'm sorry, but it starts with the Incredible Hulk as the first movie, which is Ed Norton. Then it goes with Iron Man.
No, Iron Man was first,
Okay.
then Incredible Hulk, then Thor, right?
Yeah, and
And then
then
Captain America.
Yep.
Then the Avengers.
yeah, and then all the second movies of those characters.
Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3. They're now making.
Iron Man 3 even. You're going to
terrible.
include Iron Man
It counts.
He has to.
It counts, but
so
boy, is that a
terrible.
terrible movie.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the
counts.
Galaxy
I like Guardians.
is in the universe. He also has to take like the TV shows Agent Carter, Peggy
Yep.
Carter.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that
Agents of
counts.
S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, that is a pile of crap. All right, you're giving us enough crap to work with.
Even in that's everything we need to know.
Even in your cutout little fantasy
I don't know.
universe.
It is part of the universe, but I like
This fucking
again.
patchwork universe.
Yeah.
I'm counting Iron Man 3, the cinematic universe of the movies that we.
See, alone right there, you're going to lose because let's
He
face
gets
it, Iron
Ant-Man.
Man 3, that's a loss.
He does not get to claim Spider-Man or X-Men or Fantastic Four
Some of those
or anything
Spider-Man
else.
Fantastic
Terrible,
Four was
though.
terrible.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Whether
think
they
they
were
made a
good or
good
bad,
Fantastic
any
Four
good
movie,
X-Men
yeah.
movies, he can't claim them. So
That first X-Men.
Anyway,
was pretty
continue
good.
if you have more to say. Again, we
Okay,
hijacked
the
your
reason
answer.
why I would say this franchise is better than Star Wars or Star Trek is that they come out with 2 movies every year. You're looking forward to watching both those movies almost no matter what. You will go see those movies. Not that you won't go see a Star Trek or a Star Wars movie, but doesn't necessarily mean those movies are going to be good. Need I mention the prequels of Star Wars? Or there's a lot of bad Star Trek
everyone went to
movies.
see them, whether they were good or bad.
There's
True.
prequels to Star Wars? We acknowledge that at this table? I thought that was part of the other universe.
It is. That's part of the other Star Wars.
that's the
universe.
other
I don't know what the hell you guys
that's,
are talking about.
That's post-Lucas Star Wars.
Fair
or
enough.
something like that.
Those ones don't count. They were bad.
Lucas directed them.
But you can't say
Did not claim them.
you can't say like Spider-Man counts in the same universe of the Marvel universe we're watching.
Well, now you can because Spider-Man just got reintroduced to this universe. So now he will be coming in, but you can't. We haven't seen it yet, so we don't.
He's
know.
not Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, so we don't have to worry.
Anyway,
Okay.
go on.
Okay. So do you want to give it to Jerry? He hasn't had a
Yep,
chance to
go
go
for
yet.
it. Yeah, you can go.
Well,
What's the best?
Better be Star Wars.
science
very
fiction-
obviously, I picked Star Wars.
Now, Star Wars is a film series, but it's also a book series, and there's television and computer
So is Star
games.
Trek.
I can't
Star Trek has books.
Okay,
Video
I haven't
games.
even started my answer.
Hey, if we can hijack him, we can hijack you.
I'm going to put up more of a fight against it. I would say that Star Wars is the greatest science fiction franchise of all time. I am not a big fan of the science fiction genre, but I love it. I love Star Wars. I'm completely immersed in the universe. I feel that it's great. It's entertaining. It doesn't do politics and things like that, but who gives a shit? I'm watching it to be entertained.
Episode 1, it's all politics.
Yes.
The fucking half the movie's the Senate. What the hell are you
I
talking
agree,
about?
but when I'm speaking about Star Wars, I'm not going to go so far as to say the other ones don't count, but I am
fair
more
enough.
speaking about 4, 5, and 6.
The
Those are the
actual-
ones I love. Those are the ones I think of when I hear Star Wars. I don't think of 1, 2, and 3. They exist, unfortunately. But whatever.
It was okay.
Everyone gets a mulligan. No, it wasn't. It was good until he went, no, and then you're just like, fuck me, and I walked out of the theater. That was a piece of shit.
I was just hoping he'd fall in.
But, yeah. I would say
He'd be a
that
better actor if he was burnt more.
I would say that it has a huge cult following of fans. I can't speak intelligently to the books. I believe I've only read 1 or 2 of them. They were okay.
Well, do they count
They
or
do
not?
really well, though.
I mean, they would count because they
there's-
exist.
Now that they're making these
part-
new sequels, they're saying
it's not
that.
Marvel, so we count.
I would feel like one thing where
Well, I guess it depends how we want to define it, but
I would say one
It's
thing
part of the series, though.
in,
It's
in
still part of the
one
universe.
one area where
not
Star
canon anymore.
Wars. I'd say one area where Star Wars definitely, hands down, takes Marvel and Star Trek combined. The video game world. Star Wars video games are amazing. They're entertaining. They always have been entertaining. They're good. There's very few missteps. I would say that maybe the only Star Wars game I've ever played that I didn't really enjoy is Pod Racer, and that's just because it's a racing game. But if you think about Rogue Squadron, that is an amazing N64 game, Star Wars. If you think about
X-Wing
Obi-Wan,
versus TIE
you
Fighter.
think
That was a
about
good one.
all those, and The Force Unleashed, all that. Amazing video game. Storylines, universe, playability, everything. Star Trek does not have that. Marvel, to an extent, has a solid video game base, but they have a lot of missteps. And on top of that, I feel like just for the amount of sheer product that Star Wars is able to move and produce, that's impressive. I'm not saying that gives anything to its quality, but it's just goddamn impressive. I feel like it's worth mentioning how much money that fucking movie makes off merchandising. It's insane. And yeah, that's pretty much my
okay,
argument.
I'll let you go first. Tell me why the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Star Trek do not deserve the title of Best Science Fiction Franchise.
Part of the reason the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I would say, is that you have to cut it up. It's a Frankenstein franchise, apparently. Because you're going to take the stuff that's shitty and say, but that was before we made it this universe. But it's still under the Marvel franchise. It's still recognized as a Marvel character. And making a misstep and then completely denying it is possibly the most American thing you can do. And that's just disgusting in itself. You can't deny your history. And that's what Marvel does
but
when they say
studios-
that's
It's also
outside of the
studios.
universe.
Marvel Studios.
Like, so they sold the rights to Spider-Man, X-Men, and Fantastic Four to other studios. They cannot make those movies,
It's made under the same franchise name.
but it's not.
That makes
the
it
license
part
belongs.
of that franchise.
The license belongs to different companies.
It has the name Marvel on it. It's the same characters. You're making it in the same franchise. That's my opinion.
And
And,
Blade,
you won't be able
Blade was also made with another studio.
and I can't separate that from my way of thinking. Star Trek. Lewis and fucking Clark in space.
Absolutely.
There's never any fucking action in my mind. Everything is so cheesy and corny. William Shatner is a joke. He's never done anything good. People like him because they like to laugh at how shitty he is. He's a terrible actor. Terrible. Terrible actor, terrible singer.
So the actor defines the genre, then.
No, but certainly I can make the point that he's absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
It's not defining of Star Trek, but if you're going to say, if
and
you're going to
Hayden,
point to
what's
Captain,
his name?
if
The
you're
one
gonna-
that played the
if you're going to point to Captain
Young
Kirk, as-
Anakin.
younger. Anakin.
I don't point to him as one of the
Hayden
defining
Christensen.
characters in Star Wars. Captain Kirk.
He's the guy that's based on the entire fucking series.
But
he is Darth Vader.
When you hear Darth Vader, do you picture young Darth Vader before the costume? Or do you-
Unfortunately, now I do, but
I still don't. I picture Darth fucking Vader. When I hear Star Trek, the first thing that comes to my mind is Captain Kirk, and Captain Kirk sucks.
Captain Kirk does.
What about
He does suck.
But
What about
And-
Captain Picard?
What, the bald faggot?
See, now he's back to the whole French again.
Yeah.
Which,
the
let's
French,
face
does look
it,
French.
he isn't technically French, but he is in the show.
The show, the character.
I can't
The character's
speak
French.
intelligently to that because I don't watch the trash that is Star Trek. I don't know much about Captain
And that's-
Bald Guy.
And that's the
because-
problem. That's the problem with your entire argument. Is as somebody who doesn't appreciate both of those, you'll never know which one's better. So at that part, because of the fact that you don't experience Star Trek, and you don't experience Star Wars, as I do, and I'm not saying I'm better or anything, but I am. But but you can't appreciate both sides of that coin. And Marvel, yes, both of us are familiar with the Marvel Universe now. The cut-up version is fucking retarded, but anyway. The whole point of that being is, I personally think that if you can count Iron Man 3, you should be able to count all the fucking Incredible Hulks.
enough.
Plain and simple.
It's
But
not
anyway.
the same studio, so that's why
I
I
don't
left
give
it
a
up.
fuck if it's the same studio. Not every... The same studio didn't shoot every version of fucking Star Trek
Trek.
either.
Yeah.
UPN picked up fucking Enterprise. It had nothing to do with Paramount for the most part, other than the licensing deal.
but you're still going to count it.
Absolutely.
That's
I'm
what
gonna
I'm
count it.
saying.
I'm going to count it because it's part of the fucking
should've
Star
just
Trek name.
picked
And it was
Marvel, I
technically
guess,
called
but-
Enterprise. It was never called Star Trek originally. They only brought that in the third season because they had to relate it back to Star Trek because people didn't know what the fuck they were watching. Right?
Well, okay, with the new Star Trek, right? We have this Captain, the Chris Pine Captain Kirk.
Yep.
Is
We
he-
have the
is-
reboot.
is he-
and I consider the reboot part of the fucking experience as well. Like it's,
But it's a different universe.
It is. Well, it's a different universe,
I
as
haven't
in.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen? You saw,
Oh,
you
I
saw
guess
the
that-
new one.
Oh, the not the new one. I
No,
saw
but the one before that.
That first one, I saw it on TV.
Yeah.
I never saw it like
And you thought it was
Well,
okay.
Showcase plays it like
It
18
was-
times a day.
They tried to make Star Trek more Star Wars-like.
That's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
And then they ended up taking the guy who did the movies
What
and
is-
put him into the new fucking Star Trek movie.
What does that say
Star Wars
about
movie.
what's better?
I don't know.
We're trying to make our movie like something else. Well, that something else must be better.
No, they're trying to
Because you're not
they're
trying to make it like
cater
something
to-
that's worse.
They're trying to cater to the pig-headed fan that doesn't understand what Star Trek is. And the guy who sits here and goes, Star Wars is fucking fantastic, but that fucking Picard guy's a faggot. Okay? It's, you know what? And I still respect
What
her
it comes
opinion,
down
but
to
it
is
comes down
Star
to-
Wars has action and excitement, and Star Trek doesn't.
Have you seen episode 1? There was 3 minutes of action in it.
So-
The rest was flying around and evading the fucking Senate.
So one movie out of 6, and there's what 2 or 3 television series that are all action packed. And I don't know about the books, but I would imagine, like you said, they sell very well, so they must have some amount of action. So
Yep,
you're going to
so
pick
do
out
Star
the
Trek books.
one bad one.
The half the movies
no,
of
there
Star
was
Wars
3
are
bad
bad.
ones if you
There's
remember.
6 movies of Star Wars, and there's the Clone Wars TV show, which was
Which is
immensely
excellent.
popular.
And it's very good. It is very good,
Right,
absolutely.
and
It
then
is.
there's a bunch of other Star Trek has a ton of other content.
Comics and the toys and the merchandise.
But what I'm
everything.
saying is, if you can't experience that side, how can you properly say that
All right,
that is?
Jeff, tell me why Star Wars and Star Trek don't deserve best science fiction franchise.
I'll tell you why, because they have not consistently made good movies, and that's what a good movie franchise will do, is consistently make good movies.
This isn't
That
the movie round, though. This is the wild card round.
I know it's a wild card, so it could be anything. So,
But-
and I'm interpreting the question as not only a franchise but also movies, and this is
And
what.
your franchise is a lot about movies.
Yes,
And a couple
absolutely.
TV shows.
couple TV shows,
Which are terrible.
There's some video games in there.
That Agents
I
of
haven't,
S.H.I.E.L.D.
I haven't seen either one of the TV
Oh
shows,
man,
but I understand
that
they're
Agents of
phenomenally
S.H.I.E.L.D. is so bad.
bad. Is it?
Oh my god.
I can't come.
Why Star Trek
It
bad?
is so bad.
Why Star Trek bad? Because not everything they've done has been great. You know, there's lots of Enterprise is a terrible show. You know, it's the first season was okay, but it really falls off. Deep Space Nine is good. Voyager not as good. Next Generation has parts of being really good, but there's certain episodes where you just want to shoot yourself in the head because
And you're
like,
telling me that every movie in the Marvel, whatever the fuck you call
Cinematic
it,
universe.
I'm saying we look forward to Marvel movies every year.
I
whereas-
have not seen any of the Thor movies in the theaters, but
I
I've
would-
seen all the other ones because I can't fucking stand Thor. I think it's
Yeah,
a stupid
I'm with
fucking
you on that
character.
one.
And you know what? But I understand why people like it. Okay, I'm not going to say that just because I don't enjoy something
That it's not
shit.
good.
Okay, I can't say that. Jerry can, but I can't.
I can say that. It's freedom of
But
speech.
I can't say that with right mind. Okay, and but to say that because we made out of the, I can't remember what the actual run of Next Gen was, but the run of Next Gen was, I can't remember how many seasons. What was it? 7, 8?
I have no idea.
Yeah. 7 seasons.
7 seasons. Okay, with multiple episodes each season. I think they did what?
A total of 172 or something.
172 episodes. Now, let's say you take the 172 episodes. Let's say 50 of them are shit. Okay, because I will say there was a couple of really terrible episodes. Any episode that had fucking what's his name's kid in it, instant problem. Worf's kid. If Worf's kid showed up in one of those if he showed up in one of those episodes, you could say fuck you to that episode, and you're done. Okay. Same thing with Kira, or what's her name? Not Kira, the other one.
Ro Lauren.
Ro Lauren. If Ro Lauren showed up, it was probably a fucking bad show. Okay. But that doesn't mean that the entire franchise is shit because of that.
I have one more thing, I guess, to say about the Star Wars franchise that I don't think Marvel or Star Trek have contributed to the process of making movies or television shows in the way that Star Wars did. Star Wars was revolutionary when it came out. It changed the way special effects were made in the entire industry.
And a lot of the technology that they used for that was derivative of stuff that was invented by the minds of people in the Star Trek universe.
Well, Star Trek
like
came
what?
first.
There were wooden sliding doors that sucked.
Yeah,
like
now you have doors
shitty sets that you could tell were made of.
And
cardboard.
right now, when you walk into your fucking Starbucks and get your fucking coffee, that door swings open for you. Thank you, Star Trek. You know, it's that simple. And when we've made ourselves fatter.
And when I watch the show, I'm like, wow, look at that cardboard piece of shit set. When I watch Star Wars, I'm like, wow, look how much work they did to make this look really good and change special effects for movies and television forever.
He did it so good that
Star
he
Trek
had to
was
redo
like,
it 3 fucking
Star
times
Trek
on every
was like,
single release of the movies.
Star Trek was like, hey, let's just get 2 fucking pieces of cardboard and we'll pull them apart.
Yeah,
that'll do.
It was back when imagination ruled, and that was part.
They worked within their means. Okay, let's just look at one more thing here because they're all good franchises and you can all pick apart them in different ways.
True.
So I don't know if there's anyone pulling ahead.
And I like all 3 of them, quite honestly.
What is the most science fiction of these 3? Right? Marvel Cinematic Universe is considered a media franchise, a fictional universe, but a shared media franchise. It's got science fiction in it. Star Wars is defined as a space opera franchise. Yeah, a little outside of the science fiction realm. How much?
It's still science.
When you think about science fiction, you think about science actually being involved in it, and for the most part, there's no fucking force.
They've never explained the fucking lightsabers. They've never explained it. They've just said it's a fucking
glowing the lightsabers, the force, and how they can move shit with their minds.
Well, they technically started explaining some of that, but
midi-chlorians?
Yeah.
Are we going with that, Jerry?
They did technically
All I'm saying
start that, but
is that I feel like the term science fiction doesn't actually have to mean like, oh, scientifically we could achieve this, or we're having ideas that may come to pass someday. I think the term science fiction came out when things like Star Wars and Star Trek were beginning. Star Trek, obviously, give credit where credit's due, came out first. But I think it was like people were like, I can't explain that, and it looks very technical, so that must be scientific. But it's also not true, so we'll call it fiction. So it's science fiction.
There's an easy way to figure this out. We'll look it up. And then how...
Like, I really don't think it has anything to do with the scientific nature of the show.
How is Star Trek science fiction?
Everything about Star Trek defines science fiction. It was the quest for more knowledge. That's really what it was. It came down to the fact that we're going on a fucking voyage to figure out what the fuck's going on out there. That's really what it was. And yes, it is your Clark statement.
Lewis and Clark. That's all it is.
It's Lewis and Clark, but Lewis and Clark also gave you everything you have, right? Like it's discovery. It is that is what drives the human condition.
All right, the definition is a genre of fiction dealing with imaginative content, such as futuristic settings, futuristic science and technology, space travel, time travel, faster than light travel, parallel universes, and extraterrestrial life.
And 3/4 of that easily is in R2. Not so much.
They're in Marvel as well. Of course they are.
Within reason, yeah.
Do you have space travel?
Yes. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Time travel?
Yes. Captain America.
That's not time travel. He got frozen.
He was just fucking frozen.
Yeah.
He fucking
He didn't get
traveled through time.
He didn't fucking get into
But then
DeLorean
in
and
that
fucking go back
sense,
and
then if
forth.
I go to bed and wake up tomorrow, I have
I have
traveled through
time. We're all traveling in time.
Everybody
I
is
really
traveling
wish
through
X-Men was
time.
part of this universe because I would cite X-Men.
But we can't have that
No.
because you guys
gave
are
it up.
fucking
I
breaking
know.
it all
It
up.
sucks.
You have no time travel, at least yet.
No.
I'm sure there
Faster
will be
than light travel.
yeah, Thor with the whole fucking
Yeah,
woo,
yeah, absolutely.
zipping around.
Definitely Thor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Parallel universes.
It's not really parallel.
I wouldn't say no.
Not yet, at least.
No.
Same with the time travel. In the comic books, there's time travel.
Yeah.
But you're not claiming comic books. And extraterrestrial life, yes, I'd say there is Guardians of the Galaxy, obviously.
Galaxy showed that.
And
Marvel would have been a much better pick for me.
Guardians of the Galaxy gives you a whole piece of the science fiction piece, but you're still...
If you take Guardian of the Galaxy out of it, you've actually lost some of that because that is where they kind of introduced a lot of that stuff.
and now people are saying Guardians of the Galaxy is like this generation's Star Wars.
See how they say this generation's Star Wars?
Yeah, they do, but it's not quite like...
Just saying.
It's
And
not
none
quite...
of that wouldn't have existed if Star Trek
I
didn't
think Star Wars
revolutionize that
has a
genre.
larger fan base than Star Trek as well.
It's not about
Star
larger
Trek
fans.
is more
I'm
like
saying that
intelligent.
at least contributes to something being better. If a larger number of people think it's better, then statistically speaking,
There's lots of
A
arguments
lot of people like
against
to
that.
drive Fords. I don't like them. That doesn't mean that they didn't define certain things. Like,
All right, this is a tough one, but just based on the fact that if we're going off science fiction and the best, I got to give it to Star Trek because it's got all the
because you're a huge
components.
Star Trek fan.
I
has nothing to do with the spot behind me.
No, absolutely nothing. No, yeah, no, I
Shits.
agree.
All right, this means Jody and Gerry will move on to the speed round. Jeff has been
There's
eliminated.
a speed round? Holy shit.
I know.
Jeff only. Okay, just to do a recap, we are now at Jody has 3 points, Gerry has 4 points. Gerry took the television round where he argued House of Cards was better than West Wing, and Jody argued that Ridley Scott was better than Tony Scott in the movie category. All right, so we're on music. So this is Bob Dylan versus Kurt Cobain. Jody's already made his argument, so I think we may have lost that, but that's okay.
It was a fantastic one, and it was,
I heard it.
It was for the ages.
So we're gonna go over to Gerry, who was talking about why Kurt Cobain was better than Bob Dylan.
That just sounds bad on the face of it. Okay, Kurt Cobain is better than Bob Dylan because, as I said earlier, in case it got cut out, I'm going to quote Batman, you either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain. Bob Dylan is a villain. He sold out to Starbucks. His latest album is only available at Starbucks. He has so many songs that a bunch of them are terrible. He legitimately scares small children. He looks so ragged. Kurt Cobain spoke to a generation, and when he died, he changed their lives. He lived fast, and he died young, and his songs are tragic. They're poetry. They're just poetry, pure poetic. I don't know. They're great.
I don't know. Gerry made a pretty good point. The case there for Kurt Cobain. You said he was whiny, Jody.
He was.
You said that Dylan's work.
Well, Dylan's whiny too, don't get me wrong, but I'm supposed to be fighting him.
Yeah, they're both kind of whiny.
But if you look at the span
but
of
who's the more accomplished songwriter?
it's got to go to Dylan. It's that simple. He is more accomplished.
But I
he has
believe that
spanned
your
way
job
longer.
is
It's to be objective.
I believe your job is who made the better
Argument, and I got to give it to Gerry.
All right.
All right,
This is
so
bullshit.
Jerry's at 5. Jody's at 3.
Can you just call me Geraldy?
Sounded
Jody.
like he kind of tried to mix our two
He
names.
was kinda,
That's okay.
he's like, both these guys are assholes. I'm just going to make them one now.
Well, the answer is it's 5-3. Jody, you need to win at least 2 of the next 3.
That's fine.
In order to stay.
That's
in
fine.
this.
It's doable.
I need to win all three to win.
He needs all 3 to win.
That's fine. I'm going to sweep it now.
Okay.
Gerry guy.
Sports. Which sports icon has been the most significant? Has had the most significant association with their respective game? Babe Ruth or Jack Nicklaus?
Ruth.
Why?
He is a Yankee. He is what Yankees are. He is what every baseball player is still trying to achieve. He is the face of what baseball was, plain and simple. And that is exactly what it is. I don't even need to go any farther. That's it. We're done.
Jack
that's
Nicklaus,
You
why?
want to talk what people are trying to be?
Yep.
Arguably the greatest golfer of all time, Tiger Woods, still trying to be Jack Nicklaus.
Yep.
Because Jack Nicklaus has more than Tiger Woods has. And he is the face of golf. He brought golf into this century. There wouldn't be a PGA Tour anymore without Tiger Woods, and he still isn't Jack Nicklaus.
How popular is golf compared to baseball?
Ever. But that's not the question.
Who's more significant to their individual
To
game?
their individual sport.
Babe Ruth, way more significant.
Oh, I disagree. Baseball has tons of Babe Ruths. The Babe Ruth's records have been beaten.
Oh, absolutely.
Jack Nicklaus records have not been beaten, and there's arguably only two in the history of the game, and that's Tiger Woods and Jack Nicklaus.
Anything else? Can you?
It's ludicrous. That's all I can do. It's Babe Ruth has a fucking chocolate bar. Okay, does Jack Nicholson have a chocolate bar?
He has
he's
a
got
golf
iced
course.
tea.
Jack Nicklaus, not Nicholson.
Sorry.
He has a golf course. He's the Golden Bear. He's widely regarded as the greatest
He has
golfer
a
to ever play
fucking
the
golf
game.
course. That's your argument.
He
has a
designed
golf
it, and
course.
he named. You said he had a candy bar.
He's
That had
got a
nothing to do with it.
He has made so many fucking Americans fat, you can't believe.
Which has nothing to do with baseball.
It's
Jack
still
Nicklaus has a
influential.
golf
Has
course
everything to do
named
with
after
It
him.
has everything to do with baseball.
And designed by him. Because he's so widely
Babe Ruth
regarded as
defined
great.
what the game needed to be. And that's what he did.
You want, and then also
He was a showman of the sport.
Golf is centuries older than baseball, and you would still say
Oh, it is
Jack
centuries
Nicklaus.
older.
All right, Jack. When did Babe Ruth die? In the 50s, right?
Jack Nicklaus is still alive.
Jack Nicklaus, but will they still? But
Well, it wasn't a longevity debate.
no, but will they still be talking about Jack Nicklaus years from now?
What I'm going to say is that baseball could have survived without Babe Ruth. Golf could not have survived without Jack Nicklaus.
That's a compelling
But
argument.
it's one of the oldest sports if we're talking between the two of them. How could it not have?
Professionally, as sponsorships, as a PGA
No,
Tour
it's-
with
it's-
people
it's
making
young now,
money,
but-
it couldn't have survived without Jack Nicklaus. There's more
Sure.
baseball greats than there is golf greats, and Jack
Babe
Nicklaus
Ruth
put
defined
the
what
PGA Tour
baseball
on the
needed
map.
to
How
be.
people arguably know who Arnold Palmer is than Jack Nicklaus.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think you'd have that.
I'm giving it to Jody. We're
Okay.
saying Babe Ruth. It's a tough one. All right, going to history. Which of these inventions have changed the world the most significantly? Contraceptives or the internet?
The internet. Damn it.
Who got that first, Jeff? Jody? Yeah, Jody.
I think the damn it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was pretty telling.
The damn it just kind of sold him on that one, didn't it?
All right, Jody, get the internet. Go.
The internet has been, in the course of the, let's say, 20-ish years that we've really popularized the internet, obviously it's been around before that, but it has changed every facet of our lives. Every single one of the people at this table has an internet connection in their fucking pocket, and you all know it, okay? You could not, when the internet goes down, when you can't get access to the internet, you all of a sudden start panicky a little. And we all do it. Well, maybe not Jeff, but the rest of us definitely do it. Okay, let's face it. And the internet has changed how we shop. It's changed how we've gotten information. People who weren't even able to access this stuff could get information now. Whereas they could not even get that information in their wildest dreams 30 years ago. It just couldn't happen. And we've changed so many things. We can control our fucking thermostat over the internet. Like that's certainly not that inciting, I guess. But Nesta's making a lot of money on it. But it is.
I'm just going to stop you right there. There's not a goddamn argument I can make to make contraceptives seem more influential than the fucking internet. Because half the people in the world that need them can't get them because they can't afford them. That's a bullshit, lopsided question, like asking what's more important for human life, oxygen or masturbation. There's nothing I can fucking say.
He's got a good point.
That's literally the most lopsided, one-sided question that has ever existed.
I think I win that one.
I call bullshit on that question.
Did I not call bullshit
Yes.
before this even
You
started?
did.
I did. It's signed. I'm gonna have it fucking notarized.
That is absolute.
Okay.
But I'm enjoying myself.
All right, we're going to the final round, and this is for the win.
Ooh, all right. Did we get ice cream anyway if we lose?
I hope so.
Me too.
It is. It's 5-5. This is for the
5-5?
final. This is
Alright.
for the win.
Woo! It's down to the nail biter.
Wild card. Who was the better Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire or Andrew
Tobey
Garfield?
Maguire.
All right, you get Tobey Maguire. Go.
I feel like Tobey Maguire was more true to the original Peter Parker character. He has that look, he's got the feel, everything about him screams an overlooked nerd, right? Andrew Garfield's a little more chiseled, he's a little more good looking, he looks like some guy that really didn't need all that help anyway, he's got that good looks and everything. Tobey Maguire, I feel, is more of a realistic Peter Parker. That all unassuming, very average in every way, kind of looked over by everyone. I don't get that feel from Andrew Garfield, just like I don't get the feel of 007 from fucking Daniel Craig. It's the same concept in my mind. 007's supposed to look like an unassuming, quiet guy, not like he could beat the fuck out of you. Daniel Craig can't pull that off. Andrew Garfield can't pull
Daniel
off.
Craig does look like he can beat the fuck out of you.
Exactly, and that's bad.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is Andrew Garfield can't pull off the quiet, unassuming, always looked over by girls kind of look. Fuck that. Girls are wetting their pants looking at that guy. Fuck it.
Go, Andrew Garfield. Better Spider-Man.
Andrew Garfield brought to the character what was needed, which was to grow the series up. And that's really what I think they did. They took, when you look at Tobey Maguire and all the Spider-Mans that Tobey Maguire was part of, the one thing that is constant, which is exactly what you said, which is he's more like the comic book. He really is. And I will completely
He
agree
is
with
more
you there.
true to the original character.
Why do we need to keep remaking that bullshit? Okay, why can't we take it into a new direction where we modernize it, we make it better, in my opinion? It was more a grown-up version of Spider-Man. The Tobey Maguire version of Spider-Man, although good, and I will give you that, absolutely, was a live-action version of the fucking cartoon. It really was. It was, well, within reason, obviously, but it really was. And yeah, maybe that's what it was intended to be, but it's not grown up in any way. I almost feel ashamed to watch them. It's to the point where it's like getting caught masturbating. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you know what? You're still gonna fucking do it, and I'm still gonna watch the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans. But you know what? The newer ones bring a more adult look at the series, and I think we need a reboot of that. We don't need the same fucking thing over and over and over again, which is exactly what we got with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans. Plain and simple.
This is tough. Both made good arguments. There's 3 movies on Tobey's. They never got to a third one with Andrew
That
Garfield.
third one's terrible.
Yeah.
The third
I
one is-
really
So,
made a
the
stretch
third
to
one
not
is
mention that.
Judging on
But
the
that's not
first two
Tobey
of these.
Maguire's fault.
No, it has
the
nothing to do with Tobey
Sam
Maguire.
Raimi took a
But this
shit
has
all
nothing to
over
do with.
I think it has something to do with Tobey Maguire.
No, it was
Yeah.
the direction. I think Sam Raimi took a shit all over that, and not casting up, wardrobe, like the way they made him dress and everything. That has nothing to do with him. He couldn't say, no, I don't want to do my hair like that.
I don't want to be an emo bitch
Yeah,
Spider-Man.
that was Sam Raimi. That has nothing to do
That
with
alone
Tobey
is the
Maguire.
reason why you should lose this debate, because Tobey Maguire as the emo kid was fucking horrible.
But as Peter Parker, he was great.
He was
made
the comic book that we've seen 100 times
He made me
over.
believe that was more than that was Peter Parker.
But
And
as
Garfield,
Spider-Man?
I didn't feel like that was Peter Parker.
When Tobey actually had the mask on and he was doing a
You
Spider-Man.
had no fucking idea it was Tobey. You had
Yeah,
no
but you
idea
can't-
when he.
I
But
can say
the-
the same thing about Andrew Garfield. He puts the mask on, you don't know who it is.
But I can believe that body is in that spandex.
Well, what about the
Tobey Maguire,
voice?
I can't.
Just the voice of Spider-Man when he's behind the mask and you can't see his face, right? But he's still delivering the lines.
Tobey Maguire's better.
So you're making the argument Tobey Maguire's the better Peter Parker, but is he the
Yes.
better Spider-Man in terms of when he's like talking
No,
to the Green
not at
Goblin? Or when
Yes, he is. Because Spider-Man doesn't all of a sudden become badass, too. He's still a little nerdy kid
Why
that makes
can't he be?
cheese.
That's
Spider-Man,
the problem.
when he is Spider-Man, is supposed to be supposed to be like a smart ass kind of a fucking guy, right? Like
Yeah, he's supposed to be.
he's
you
not
know,
like he's not the
in
nerd
the
anymore.
cartoons, he was kind of a dick when he was in the suit, right? Like he was.
Yeah.
He
He's a
was,
smart ass.
he was that
nerd,
condescending
too.
kind
It's
of
just nobody
prick guy
cares.
running around. Like that's what he was.
Right.
And that's
He's
what
a
I think
smart-ass,
the
but he's a
adult
nerd,
ones are
just no one
giving us.
listens.
And Tobey Maguire didn't pull that off in Spider-Man as Spider-Man.
The newer ones were getting a better sense of what Spider-Man actually is, which is kind of a
No,
cocky
I
douchebag.
disagree.
Yeah.
You're giving a better sense of what people want him to become. You're not getting a better sense of what Spider-Man is. And you said it yourself, it was the main point of your argument, that this is where Spider-Man is going. This is what he's becoming. And the question says, who plays the better Spider-Man as we know him? And that, my friend,
I don't think
by
it
your
said anything
own
about
admission...
Nolan. Just said who plays the better Spider-Man.
Well, to me, that means who captures the character as we know him better.
So there's
Like
half
saying,
the
like,
character.
he took it completely different.
The
and
character
did
has two
something
halves.
totally
It's
new.
half Peter Parker and half
But
Spider-Man.
your entire
And I
argument
guess-
was about Peter Parker for the most part. You're like, oh, well, Spider-Man, whatever. But yeah, no, Peter Parker, he was a fantastic fucking teenage nerd. Like, yeah, no, I get that, but that's not fucking Spider-Man.
That is the
Spider-Man is the
essence of the
fucking
character.
ego. It is that alter ego that he has when he's in the fucking suit, where he's the kind of douchebag, pricky little, cocky little bugger, and that's what the newer ones are like. The newer ones show you that better.
But so I'd say that overall, Garfield makes the better fighter costume version of Spider-Man versus Peter Parker, which is probably better. Tobey
Only
Maguire.
because of look.
Tobey Maguire definitely the better Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Hands down. But
And I
that's
think
not what
he's-
this question is
I
about.
think
It's
he's-
about Spider-Man.
Peter Parker is half of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have Spider-Man without talking about Peter Parker. That's
Well, of course not.
ridiculous.
Well, no, they almost said the new Spider-Man was going to be Miles Morales. It wasn't going to even be
Which
Peter
I
Parker.
won't even bother watching. I think that's just absurd.
Well, they haven't decided.
Is that part
I
of that
think-
expanded fucking
I think-
Marvel
I think
universe
that's-
again?
it's
That thing's been fucking us over all night.
You want a black superhero,
better.
make a black superhero.
Soon they'll
That's
have all
it.
the characters.
Don't change.
And it's not
somebody.
like we have a shortage of black superheroes.
Like, I don't know. It's crazy.
Black Panther, Marvel Cinematic Universe.
There you go.
That's it.
I don't know what to do here, but Jeff, what do you think?
I mean, I think you have to judge it on who is the better Spider-Man. And that's up to who you think made a better argument for who is the better Spider-Man. Not necessarily Peter Parker. Because Peter Parker, yes, he's half a Spider-Man, but you're asking who's the better Spider-Man. Now who's the better Peter Parker?
To me, that's
Yeah.
just semantics. That's like saying, you're splitting hairs.
But the question
It's the
is, who is
same
the better
person.
Spider-Man?
So who is a better at floating around in a CG area and not acting and not giving anything about a character? Like, that's
No, I'm not
just
saying
ridiculous.
that. Maybe you're right.
But I think
Like,
the
to
newer
me,
ones
Spider-Man
do
is
embrace
the
that.
whole.
To me-
the whole thing. You can't say, oh, he's better in the costume, but who gives a shit how he is as Peter Parker? That's crazy.
But you said that you thought Spider-Man was more the timid, meek behind the mask, whereas Jody's Spider-Man is more cocky douchebag. So who's more true to the character? That's only Dave can decide.
It's both. And that's the
Okay.
problem.
It really is.
They almost split this guy down the middle. Tobey Maguire had one more movie.
That
Yeah.
doesn't make him better.
Well,
And
Andrew
did you see
Garf-
that movie?
Yeah, but I would argue that the new Spider-Man wasn't that good.
At least he got to
I
the
didn't
third
really
movie.
like it. Like, I didn't
At least-
like
at
Andrew
least-
Garfield as Spider-Man. Like, I know we're not
But
supposed
he
to
got to
bring
the
our
third
own-
because he had a 3 fucking movie franchise deal.
So did Andrew Garfield and got pulled on him
Yeah.
because
because
he didn't do a good job.
Or at least
Like,
somebody.
I didn't want to bring my own opinion into it, but I didn't think he did good. I didn't like that movie. The Lizard Man was done terribly. I know that doesn't have anything to do with who was the better Spider-Man, but if you look at the movie as a whole, Andrew Garfield's movie was fucking not that good.
but because of him
He didn't help it. He didn't do enough to save that movie.
and Tobey Maguire did.
I feel like the first Spider-Man movie is better than Andrew Garfield's. The second Spider-Man movie is
Only
better than
because
Andrew
you like the
Garfield's.
Peter Parker. If you take Peter Parker out of the fucking equation, it's not. It's no better.
It
It's
is
actually,
better.
if anything, I think the newer ones are better.
I disagree.
In that. Because of the fact that we are now taking a more adult approach to it. We're not going to sit here and do the same fucking rehash over and over and over again where we like Mr. Parker.
But
Okay?
you're saying that after being saturated by 3 movies. Take your impression of the first Spider-Man the first time you saw it versus.
Oh, I
the
enjoyed
first-
it. I'm not arguing that. But I enjoyed the scenes with Peter Parker more than I did enjoy the scenes with Spider-Man. It wasn't anything fucking phenomenal by any stretch. They could have CG'd the whole fucking... they could have CG'd him the entire time and you wouldn't know the difference. You would have no idea.
But you
he
still-
didn't lend
Same
anything
with
to the
Andrew
costume.
Garfield.
But he was there.
But
You
the
saw
actor
it.
is still doing the voiceover, so that's
Yeah,
part of
absolutely.
acting.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Oh, and voice acting is definitely acting. Absolutely.
So
I think the first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker is better than the Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield. If you look at him as a one-off versus a one-off, Tobey Maguire was better than Andrew Garfield.
It sold more. That's for sure. But that doesn't make it better.
He was more true to the original character, I find. And I think that the only thing that Andrew Garfield has above him is that he has looks. Appearance-wise of the abs. That's the only thing he has.
So you're saying that he
makes a
represents...
Spider-Man,
But you're
then-
saying he represents the physical form of Spider-Man better.
And that's the only point.
what about the face? Who looks more like Peter Parker?
I still think Andrew on that one.
I think Tobey Maguire.
I think
does.
Tobey Maguire does.
Yeah.
Okay.
This has become not a speed round.
I know.
It's not even kind of a speed round. Like, make a fucking choice already.
I know.
I'm going to go. I can't decide. It was so important, but I'm going to give it to Toby. He made the better argument. So, Gerry.
There we go.
Gerry wins the first episode of Trivial Debates by a hair. Yeah. By the emo hair of Toby Maguire.
If he hadn't won, he'd be powder.
It's good he won. All right.
That's not true.
It was close. All right. The speed round was a long round, but hey, worth it.
This is bullshit.
He made the sign before the show.
That's right.
All right. So that's me. I'm Dave Mader.
See you later.
I'm Jeff Mader.
And I'm that Jody guy.